Hello, and welcome to the We Recommend podcast, a movie podcast where every week we recommend a movie for you to watch and then come back here and listen to us discuss. I'm Jesse.
I'm Dakota. It's a mess, ain't it, Sheriff?
If it ain't, it'll do till the mess gets here. Because this week we recommend No Country for Old Men. Woo! Yeah. So, whenever we talk about movies, this isn't a type of movie we really talk about. So that's why I think it's really fun that you're going to be on this podcast. So what did you think of No Country for Old Men?
I originally, when I watched it, which was on some movie channel maybe, and I think I started it right at the beginning, or at least when he shoots the the deer in the field.
The pronghorn.
Yeah. And I just kept watching it and I really loved it. My only thing at the time when I watched it was how it kind of ended. And that kind of left a weird thought that I had about the movie. And then when you suggested it again, I went back and watched it and I was like, this is just such a good movie. The ending still kind of is there, but the more I think on it, I'm kind of like it, kind of don't. It's one of those I'm half and half. I get it, but it still doesn't ruin the movie.
Well, it's because it turns out, hey, the main character was a sheriff who's 5 steps behind the entire movie.
Speaking of which, one of my notes was, I never understood the title until the beginning where Tommy Lee Jones talking about them old timers and stuff and how they would do, how would they do in the days now? And they probably couldn't handle it. It's No Country for Old Men. They can't handle it. It's oh, I get it now.
Yeah. And, throughout the movie, there's constantly an older person needing help from a younger person, whether Josh Brolin needing the young guy's jacket and beer. And they're all no, give me money for the beer too. And then the greed with the kids at the end with Anton Chigurh, it's oh, he needs a shirt. But then they're also hey, where's my half of the money too? It's also about greed and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the emptiness of life.
Which I've got questions about. What's his character's name again?
Anton Chigurh?
Anton.
Yeah. The greatest movie villain I ever did.
Yes.
Movie villain.
I wonder if you have the same fact about that I do.
What, with his hair?
No.
Oh. Well, I don't know. We'll have to get to that. Yeah. So do you just not like how abruptly it ends at the end? Because usually when I recommend this movie, I remember recommending it to Jordan Brown, and he watched it and he's like, the ending is so bad. And I'm like, what do you mean?
So this is going to I don't want to be all snooty here and stuff, but I feel it's something I told to a friend, Shane. He watched Nosferatu and he says, it's not good. And I'm like, look, I'll take your opinion on a grain of salt, not to be that person, but I kind of understand movies more than you. He's like, no, bro, it's not blah, 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 this. And he's like, okay, I stand corrected, because he looked up his ratings and he's like, okay, it falls in line with his other movies. And it's just something I didn't feel like trying to explain to him of because of you, I've learned to have a different appreciation for movies and just all the, I don't want to be super hard, but all the slop we get now these days of super CGI and going back and to appreciate what movies were. It's a really good movie. Ending still gets me, but
what's the director's name of Nosferatu?
I forgot, but he's directing a Pan's Labyrinth sequel now.
Well,
I don't know if it's him. It did say Nosferatu movie something. I don't know if it said director or someone who's a part of Nosferatu, but.
Well, I know his next movie is a werewolf movie, actually.
He's doing the...
Robert Eggers.
He's doing the Wolfman movie?
No, he's doing a different wolf movie next. It's going to take place in the 1780s or something like that. Because he doesn't want to do movies back in the day. Well, yeah, it makes sense that you'd like Robert Eggers because, he doesn't really use CGI because, he's a very, I want everything to look real and as the time that it would be at and stuff like that.
You can do CGI and enjoy it. The only person that I have known recently has done CGI that I've loved is Denis Villeneuve.
Denis Villeneuve.
And they mentioned something about him. He said the reason their stuff looks so good is because they give him a year or more to focus on reflections and everything on that. And I was like, that's what makes CGI go, is if you can get the real world reflections and stuff, that adds to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Fuck, why did we get there?
we were talking about CGI and just like how I like.
Oh yeah.
But back to like the ending. Like the ending still gets me, but the more I think on it, I kind of just I get it.
Well, the ending
makes sense because I'll ask about it towards the end when we get there because I have a question about it that I meant to look up, but I was busy with that emulator thing.
Yeah. Well, the ending, the final speech by Tommy Lee Jones is just kind of an epilogue.
Yeah. That
like the ending is Chigurh going to the wife's house. That's completing the story.
Yeah. Well, it was more on like the Moss's story.
Mm-hmm. Oh, or yeah. Yeah.
But as I thought on it today, I was like, oh, he was talking about it's going to come right to me. And he didn't have to do anything on it because I realized what he did.
Yeah.
I was like,
Well, and he was distracted. He was talking to that girl. He just lost his distraction for once. He wasn't, head in the game.
True.
So what all of the other Coen Brothers movies have you seen?
You'll have to say because I can't remember.
So you got Fargo.
Seen Fargo. Love Fargo.
Big Lebowski.
Love Big Lebowski.
Yeah, so there's Blood Simple. That was the first one. Raising Arizona. You've seen that?
Yeah, that was Nicolas Cage, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
There's Miller's Crossing. That's like a good Irish gangster movie.
I haven't seen that one.
Barton Fink. That's got John Turturro in it.
Now you say good Irish gangster. Anytime I think of a gangster film,
I think they're Irish. I can't remember.
I think of Scorsese, and I'm like, oh, that'd be good to watch. I'm like, do I have like 2.5 hours to sit there and?
Oh, they don't make movies that long.
He did. He made that last one, whatever it was, 3 hours.
The Coens, they don't really make them that long. I mean, I don't even know what their longest. I think True Grit is their longest. Then you got Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
I didn't know they did that. I love that movie.
Yeah, Burn After Reading, Serious Man, True Grit, Inside Llewyn Davis, Hell Caesar, and The Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
They did the Ballad of Buster Scruggs in that, just like the one snippet of that?
No, they did the whole movie. It's the one where got James Franco first time.
I don't think I finished all that.
Yeah.
But I loved the James Franco thing, and I loved Buster Scruggs.
Yeah.
I loved that. I thought that was so great.
What did you think about the Liam Neeson one?
Which one was that one?
It's the one with the kid with no legs and arms.
I don't think I saw that one.
Gotcha.
I didn't get to finish it all. The last thing I remember was the dude digging for gold. And that was it. Because after Buster Scruggs, I was like, I want more of that.
You should have seen the Liam Neeson one because I think the gold one's like one of the last ones.
Well, I just can't remember. It's been a minute since I watched it.
So something about No Country that I really liked now that I remembered it by talking about Coen Brothers movie. So I love when they show you process in movies. And this movie is all about fucking process.
Is that probably why you love that one movie that came out with from David Fincher?
The Killer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I watched that, and now when I first watched it, I would not recommend watching it, messed up, because sometimes when I watch it, my span's not there, and I have more appreciation for details when I'm sober. And also I was watching it when I had the lower version of Netflix for like 720, and it's a dark film, so everything was kind of pixelated, so I couldn't enjoy it, but I was like, I need to go back and watch it.
Yeah, I love that movie. It's kind of slow and methodical like this movie is, but
I wouldn't say as slow, because I think it's because you just have more characters in No Country for Old Men, and in The Killer you just have Michael Fassbender.
Yeah,
and I recommended that movie to Shane because I'm like, like all the details and stuff. I was like, this is probably what you can get really close to of an accurate person hiding their steps.
Yeah,
and that's what I love, because I still think about like the airport scene from that movie, where he thinks he sees someone and like changes his whole flight and everything like that.
Yeah.
It's like, that's good.
Yeah. But yeah, like in this one, it starts off when you see Anton Chigurh and everything he's doing, how he's just going murder to murder to murder. But then you have Josh Brolin where you see him hunting, and then you see him working out like, tracks in the field. He follows blood, and then he sees another trail of blood. It's like, there's a dog. Now let me follow that dog's trail. Then he goes and he searches all the trucks and everything. And I don't know. It's just, I love that. And then whenever they're in the hotel room and you have him pushing the suitcase
all
to the
that
back,
like details and everything.
And then you have it juxtaposed with Anton Chigurh going in and like, okay, so I'm buying this room. It's going to be the same as the room I'm going to go into. So he like kicks open the door. It's like, all right, there'd be a person there. So I'm going to probably hide behind this wall.
That was so good because when I watched that scene and he's filling the frame, I was like, was he trying to see if it was hollow? Then when he went in, I was like, it's just, God, that's so good.
It's so smart.
One thing I noticed about this movie, there's no music.
Yeah, there's no score. It's only like in certain parts where it kind of raises.
Yeah, and you don't even notice it. And I was like, I really like that with movies because it makes me focus so much more and doesn't take me out of it. And I feel like, everything now kind of just blares music at it at wrong times. But you can do it in a good way. And I'm just sitting here, it's like, you hear the nature, you feel like you're
there.
Yes, that's what I loved about it. And like it didn't have like, I don't know what kind of filtering or stuff they did to it. It's all good because I was like, this feels like it's obviously not real world brightness because it's not different, but it gets to a point where like I feel like it's more like cloudy day type of thing, but they amped up the brightness.
It feels like everything's covered in dust.
Yes, and it's good.
Well, the Coen Brothers are some of the Oh Brother Where Art Thou? The film grading, how it's like very like yellow and goldish. Well, that was like some of the first time people were really doing that, and they kind of started it, which I love and also hate because now movies do it too much in shows.
Well, there's the thing of like people do it's like, oh, let's just add this on here without understanding it, and they just put it on there. I'm like, no, appreciate what it is. Don't just think I can just slap it on there and it'll be good.
Yeah. So this is originally a book by Cormac McCarthy. I don't know if you know much about him. But he did like did you ever watch the movie The Road? It's got Viggo Mortensen in it, I believe.
That's not the one with the kids and stuff, is it?
It's got a kid and it's a post-apocalyptic and stuff.
Oh, I've heard of it. I haven't watched it. It's one of those ones I need to because I like Viggo Mortensen.
Yeah, it's also a really good movie. Not as good as this.
It's not a Cronenberg film since apparently he loves him.
But yeah, I actually read the book. It's fun because I can see how that book would become a movie, No Country for Old Men, because he wrote it like a script essentially. Without like, it's not, there's like, he kind of writes out all the dialogue and stuff. And it like when I only read like half of it and I was like, oh shit, this is the movie. Except they do have like a lot of other stuff. Like when he's going to El Paso, Brolin picks up like a hitchhiker and that's the girl essentially that's at the pool.
I can see why you cut that out.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think the stuff they cut out, it's like Chigurh takes the money when he gets it from Brolin. He takes it to like the person who originally owned it and stuff like that. So it kind of ties off some of the things that maybe the movie doesn't. But
I think the movie kind of like there's probably like I could see the book just having like the way you said it was written, not finishing certain things works for the movie.
And I think that the Coens are always about people, just elaborate schemes and events happening. But it's like, what's it all fucking for? Nothing. It was all pointless. All these people died for no reason. Fargo. Money. I mean, that's essentially all Fargo is.
It's greed, like you said earlier.
And it's like, it's all pointless because it's all just going to end up back where it's supposed to be.
That's the thing is people will get what they want. Doesn't matter where it's going to get.
The perfect movie. And it's like one of the best endings of a Coen Brothers for me because of what all their movies are about. It's Burn After Reading. You have J.K. Simmons. He's like a high person in the government or whatever.
I've seen it. I know.
And it's like at the end, he's like they essentially explains the plot. And he's just like, what the fuck what did we learn about this? And
I love that movie.
It's kind of what all these movies are.
That was a movie that I was like, can we get more George Clooney being like this? It's so funny. There's certain things like when you watch a movie, like I want more of this. And like I watched Demolition Man recently.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, man, Wesley's obviously it's a goofy movie, but it's good cheesy or classy cheesy is what a coworker said. And I was like, yeah, it's like fun like that.
Yeah.
I was like, man, Wesley Snipes kind of being a nutso.
Yeah, it's so fun.
Well, I want more movies of like that with certain actors.
But I don't know. I just like movies that kind of almost make me feel empty at the end of them.
I didn't feel empty. It makes sense. Money drives everyone. They will get what they want. And then especially Anton's character, which did he work for the cartel or?
Well, he was hired by the guy, Stephen Root, the guy that is in Barry. The guy in the office building.
Okay. Stapler?
Yeah, Stapler guy. So he was hired by him, but he also hired other people to help him get it because...
Oh, those two that were there at the beginning with Anton?
And Carson Wells. And yeah, so he hired a whole bunch of people and then, Chigurh killed him because he's like, what, you didn't think I could do this? Essentially. Because he broke the rule.
I'll get my quick fact out about Anton's character.
Yeah, cool. Go ahead, because we're hopping into facts right now.
Yeah, so a psychiatrist and his colleagues concluded.
It's the first one I'm going to read.
That his character, Javier Bardem's character, is a realistic portrayal of a psychopath. The most like realistic ever.
Yeah, I guess it was in like 2018 when they did the study. And it was an article in Business Insider, and they studied 400 movies and identified 126 psychopathic characters. And they said this is the most accurate.
Didn't they say like Patrick Bateman's from American Psycho was like not the most, was like one of the lower ones?
Really?
Yeah, I think that, I can't remember exactly, but I think they said that because obviously he's like extreme more than Psycho. He's psychotic and other thing.
Man, the thing is, like watching some Netflix documentaries and stuff like that, I'm like, he's not too far off.
No, like,
but he's too like quiet and in tuned with him.
Well, he's
more than like
what you would see, like what you see with like The Killer and Dexter Morgan. They're psychopaths, but obviously realistic, and he's like more of like the like they said, the more realistic take. So that's how I see it. He's like someone who's very smart and knows his stuff, and he's just who he is, and he does it so well.
Yeah, and Chigurh, it's just like, you know, like I've known people where it's just like you got to tiptoe around what you say around them, and it's like with Chigurh, it's like you don't know what you could say that will tip him off. Like the guy in the grocery store.
Oh my God, I was so nervous. I was like, The
guy's just like, I just asked you, like, I just asked what the weather is like there.
I felt like, I was like, this, I'm so tense. Even
and
though
then
I don't care.
he couldn't dig himself out of the hole. Everything he was saying, it was just pissing him off.
Because he was
more
able
and more.
to turn it around. Like, what do you, because he's like, he's a person, no nonsense type of thing. He's like, you heard me. Stop doing the, like, you know, when someone says something to you and you're trying to register what it is and you're like, huh? And you're like, oh yeah. And you catch up to what it was. He knows it's like, no, you know what I said.
Yeah. And plus it's like, you could see like the more like as soon as he has the upper hand on him, there's always like this almost a little like smirk. Cause he, like, you can tell that he loves the fact that how uncomfortable and scared they are.
Oh yeah. Well, that's the thing about psychopaths. They see people like, you know, psychopaths, the first thing you see is they torture animals.
Yeah.
And that leads to the belief, at least in my mind, is that psychopaths see people. They don't see them as people. They see them as animals as well. That's why they can understand people so well. It's like, you're animals and I understand animals.
Yeah.
And that's why I think he's like, I like the fear, because he's someone who likes to play with his food.
His food.
Quote.
But he also will give him a chance.
He does.
A flip of a coin.
Yep.
Damn Two-Face. Two-Face. Which is ironic because Tommy Lee Jones played Two-Face.
It all laps back together. Where's Kevin Bacon?
Yeah. So in the novel, Sheriff Bell says of the dope dealers, here a while back in San Antonio, they shot and killed a federal judge. Cormac McCarthy set the story in 1980. And in 1979, federal judge John Howland Wood was shot and killed in San Antonio, Texas, by a freelance contact killer, Charles Harrelson, father of Woody Harrelson, who's in this movie.
Like,
in real life, I guess.
What?
Yeah, I don't know. That's just what the notes, that's what the facts is.
That was one thing I was like, oh, Woody Harrelson's in it. And then when he met Anton, I was like, oh no, he gonna die. Because anyone that crosses his path is just like.
Well, because you just like, you immediately meet Woody and it's like, fuck, he's so fun. I love him.
I know.
Immediately. And he's like, just like, he does more talking than almost anybody in the movie has at that point in such a short amount of time. Because everybody's like, I'm
well, the old man, like country stoic crap.
Uncle Ellis. Yeah, I just thought that was crazy. I was like, whoa, no way. That's so fun that he's in this movie.
And it's bad because, like, anytime I see, like, an actor, I'm like, oh, what was the last thing I saw them in? And the last thing I saw Woody Harrelson in was Venom 2.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
so bad.
Wasted potential. Like, you have the perfect actor.
Yeah.
Someone who was from Natural Born Killers. Because when I first saw that movie.
And that's what they wanted it to do. They just didn't do it.
Well, they couldn't. They wanted to keep that PG-13 rating.
Yeah.
When I saw Natural Born Killers, before Venom even had a movie, I saw this. I was like, he would be an amazing Cletus Cassidy.
Yeah.
And when I heard they cast it, but I was like, oh no, they're not going to get to take full advantage of it.
So when directors Joel Coen and Ethan Coen approached Javier Bardem about playing Chigurh, he said, I don't drive, I speak bad English, and I hate violence. The Coens responded, That's why we called you. Bardem said that he took the role because his dream was to be in a Coen Brothers film.
Well, he did a really good job because...
Well, I think he portrays that he's like kind of uncomfortable. And it's just, which that maybe that uncomfortableness is like comes off odd and strange.
Maybe it's like one of those like not in your element thing and you learn to look into it and you have more of an objective view on it.
Yeah.
Versus like idolizing because, everyone watches documentaries and stuff. Maybe he just like, I don't like this stuff. He did his research, or if he didn't, he did his own portrayal.
Yeah.
And he did it well because he's like, this is how it would be. Oh, no, it's not like that because they don't try and add in their extra flair of what they think someone is. Because, people idolize serial killers. They put this different spin on them. Like Dahmer had fans and stuff. And it's like, obviously these people don't understand like the mind of someone. They're like, oh, you did this. I love you, blah, blah, blah. Because they like, anytime there's certain like attractive serial killer or someone that kills someone, they always have that weird like
making Dahmer hot.
Yeah, that was weird.
Similar haircuts.
True.
Not too far away from the haircut. Which I do actually have a fact on his haircut. So, the Coen Brothers used a photo of a brothel patron taken in 1979 as a model for Anton Chigurh's hairstyle. And when Bardem saw the hairstyle, he's like, "Oh no, I won't get laid for the next 2 months."
His last thing I saw him in was in that the Menendez brothers show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I was watching it, and watching the show was good because the actors, like there was 2 actors in that I thought did the best. It was one of the Menendez brothers because he's in Grotesquerie. That guy, he does a really good job. He's probably gonna be typecast now because he does
forever,
crazy.
He just constantly has been doing that.
He does crazy person very well. And then Javier Bardem was in it, and I'm like, I really like him. I need more movies with him where he's like the lead or some kind of like main character.
Yeah, I'll have to find some for you because mainly this movie is what I watch him in, and of course the Dune series now.
Yeah, he's good in that, but like I want more of him because he's got his little accent and his deep voice, and the way he portrays just gets me every time, just in it.
Yeah. So I guess when they were filming on location, I don't know if you've ever seen There Will Be Blood. It's the Daniel Day-Lewis movie. And it's like all about oil. It's essentially about
I've been needing to see that because I went on a kick for a little bit, but because I was like, oh, 3:10 to Yuma, and I watched it, and it was not terrible. It's just not what I was expecting. I was expecting like this type of movie.
Yeah, no, that's like a fun.
Yeah, it's more fun
Western action movie,
and so that kind of took me off, and I was like, I need to really watch True Grit and There Will Be Blood. Those are 2 movies I really want to watch.
True Grit's so fun. There Will Be Blood. It's slow. It's these movies. They have similar themes. Honestly, the 2 movies, and they're both up for the Best Picture Academy Award. And you're either team There Will Be Blood or team No Country for Old Men. But anyway, so like while they're on location in Marfa, Texas, the movie There Will Be Blood was shooting nearby. One day while filming a wide shot of the landscape, directors Joel and Ethan Coen had to halt shooting for the day when a gigantic cloud of dark smoke floated conspicuously into view. Paul Thomas Anderson was testing the pyrotechnics of an oil derrick set ablaze on the set of the film. Coen's resumed filming the next day when the smoke finally dissipated. A year and a half later, both films were leading contenders for Best Picture.
Back when we used to have like really good movies that, because like the Oscars and stuff are coming up, and I'm sitting here thinking like, what has come out that I'm thinking, oh man, they're gonna have a hard choice to choose from.
Yeah,
I feel like we get like, I was telling it's a shame we were watching Demolition Man. I was like, think about the time when Spielberg and all these directors had been rising up and all these good movies we got for a long time.
Yeah.
Now we don't get that. I feel like
2007 was probably one of the best of our time, like one of the best movie years there is. Because you have Zodiac, There Will Be Blood, No Country for Old Men, Michael Clayton. You may have not have seen it. And I can't even remember what the 5th movie that was nominated that year.
That's a good
Zodiac
point.
Wasn't even nominated for Best Picture.
Oh my God.
And it's like one of my favorite movies ever made.
I sitting here thinking about that. That does make me think because around 2010s when we started getting the MCU stuff, and that's when it started going down.
Yeah.
I'd say downhill. It's just too much of studios wanting to replicate that money, and
which that's kind of what they've always done that throughout history of Hollywood.
It's just more amplified now with streaming, which
truthfully,
sucks.
Streaming is what's kind of messed everything up. Now there's just too many movies. There's just movies.
Like
and sometimes the best movies you never heard about because the streaming service didn't even tell you about it until it's out.
Like Conclave. I had only seen, the only reason I'm seeing it is because we were on Peacock watching Traitors, and I was like, oh, I've seen some stuff on it. And then I looked, I was like, this is, why is this, what?
Yeah, it's being nominated for everything. Yeah. It's like, yeah.
Like I still want to see Heretic, and I don't even know if that's out on streaming yet.
Not yet. It should be on HBO because it's A24.
Well,
and they get the.
Well, there's something I thought I read about A24 having some kind of delay with Max because it's kind of like Stars will get Spider-Man before Disney Plus.
Yeah,
I think they have something like that, but I don't remember.
Well, and yeah, or maybe Netflix will get it first because it's Sony. But I know that because Netflix is a Sony company essentially, or they get all the Sony movies first.
Oh, speaking of some Sony stuff, I saw something, I don't know how much it affects, but Sony's going to stop production of Blu-ray discs. I don't know if that meant like for copying or like physical all together.
I just murder me.
Yeah. So
we're just all going to have to get our stuff from like Arrow Video and all those things.
Oh, thank God
now.
you said that, because I was sitting here, I was like, man, that pirate hat going to be coming out, because I'm all about owning physical stuff, at least owning it and not having to stream, because you know everything I've been doing lately.
It's going to be all these like kind of side companies that we're going to have to go to get through our films now. So we'll just do two more facts, and they're both about Josh Brolin. Yeah. So Josh Brolin was working on Grindhouse in 2007. When he became drawn to the role of Moss in the film, he asked Grindhouse director Robert Rodriguez if he could borrow a video camera for his audition tape, and he ended up having his audition elaborately shot with the theatrical camera they were using, directed by Quentin Tarantino, and Marley Shelton as Carla Jean. When the Coens saw Brolin's tape, their response was they loved the lighting.
I wish
Quentin Tarantino
I would love to
directed
see
his audition. It's so good. And then one last thing about Josh Brolin. So Josh Brolin broke his shoulder in a motorcycle accident in two days after getting the part in this film. In an interview with Now Magazine, he recalled thinking, "Fucking shit, I really wanted to work with the Coens," as he flew over the car that hit him.
Oh my God.
His injury, however, turned out to be a non-issue since his character is shot in the shoulder very early in the film.
It's funny when that stuff happens, because that time I got in a wreck with Tyler nearby, and I did a spin around. I saw, it's just weird when adrenaline kicks in, and I spun around and I saw Tyler's rear view. In the rear view, I saw his brake lights hitting. All I could think as I was spinning, like, oh, fuck, Fast and Furious.
I'm living a quarter mile at a time.
I was living in the ditch at that moment.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to hop into the plot. So we're in West Texas. It's June 1980. It's desolate, wide open country. And Ed Tom Bell, played by Tommy Lee Jones, laments the increasing violence in a region where he, like his father and grandfather before him, has risen to the office of sheriff. But we learn later, it's always been violent. It's just like the classic what this movie is. And once it gets to Uncle Ellis, it's this, which is the guy who has the bad coffee and all the cats.
Yeah.
He's like, it's always been hard. This country's just hard on people.
Yeah.
It's like, no matter what, like everything's going to progress and it's always going to be hard. There's always some weird serial killer that's killing somebody. Jack the Ripper.
Especially back in the day.
Yeah. And honestly,
you're just not aware of it as much.
I will say the 70s and 80s were, that we had a lot of crazy killers.
All the documentaries me and my girlfriend have watched, we sit there and talk about it. She's like, how did this happen? I was like, no cameras. You could, like, all you had to do was just think a little bit and you could not get caught.
Yeah.
It's not that, like I say, it's not that hard, but if you just didn't do the typical, go back to the scene of the crime, stay in your area, nothing behind, didn't leave a mess.
Yeah.
Like even if you stabbed someone to death, if you did it at night, went home, washed up to some rando stranger, like,
yeah, it's like
that's what made the Zodiac killer so prominent.
Probably get away with it unless like you just left one fingerprint and they finally found it 20 years later because of the technology.
Yeah, but that's if
you
left it. If you didn't, like if you stabbed someone and didn't leave it, if you're not in the registry. But of course now that's why they did those. I don't know if you remember in elementary, they did the identikit things. Even cops came by and they would take your thumbprint and it would be like a little identity thing for your parents. But I was like, will that put your thumbprints also in the system? I was like, that's kind of smart, because if you do something later on, your prints are in the system regardless.
Wow, that's funny. I didn't even think of that. So during the monologue, while he's talking about violence and stuff and how hard the country is, we see Anton Chigurh. He's getting arrested with his cattle gun killer.
Man.
After the monologue, we see Anton Chigurh. He's in the police station. You just see him Guys is having like a classic Coen brother. I'm just a country sheriff. I'm just talking on the phone. He just slowly gets up.
He had some respirator thing there.
Yeah, and he like steps over the cuffs, which is impressive as being that giant of a man to do.
Oh yeah, like I was like, he doesn't. I mean, you can do it because he stands up, does it, and then he sits back down, which gives you more range. And he knows. He just does it so smoothly, and like it's not crazy. A struggle.
It's like I want to know how many times it took him to film that. Well, I mean, I don't know.
That should be a movie CGI. I should watch like behind the scenes on because I would love to see like behind the scenes for Coen Brothers.
Yeah. And so after the monologue, we see Anton Chigurh choke the deputy to death.
What an opening scene, right?
I know. It's the scuff marks, right?
Yes,
I was like,
that
terrifying.
Detail is so good. And like, one thing to say is like when it takes like 5 minutes to actually like suffocate someone, and him doing it with like the handcuffs bleeding him out too, and just I think that's also like the most emotion
like cuts through his jugular and
emotion you see on Anton's face, and that's the only time he ever does anything with his hands as well.
Yeah, because we don't really see him have too much emotion from there until he gets hit by a car.
But it's also like it shows that he may be a psychopath, but he's also like struggling. He's just like doing it. He's not someone who's just blank faced. Still a real person, and that's what it would be. Is like he's doing it, and he's just like, you inconvenienced me, and you're paying for it. And he gets done. He just gets up, and he's good.
Yeah, and it's just we're not having the music and just seeing the scuff marks and like hearing them like pitter patter on the ground while he's kicking. I actually did in my editing class. We were supposed to do like a scene and like talk about it in front of the class. I picked the one where they're doing the chase in the middle of the night at the hotel. And it's the shootout between the two. And I was just like, oh yeah, that's a great movie to do since there's no score. And it's like you can really focus on like the tippy taps of people's shoes and stuff.
All those little details.
But it makes it like scarier. And then when there's like a gunshot, it's like, oh. It's like, oh yeah, that's how it'd be in real life.
I still think about that scene with the cattle killer. I'm like, oh my God. That is like a crazy thing to use.
Yeah, but it's perfect. There's no
bullet. Yeah. There's no anything. Now, I don't know realistically if like...
And you're in Texas where everybody has one probably.
Yeah. Well, like, it was funny because when we watched It recently, the Skarsgård one, and it was a scene with like he was shooting the cat, supposed to shoot the sheep with that, and girlfriend didn't know what that was. I was like, yeah, that's the thing. And the only reason I know about it is because of that.
Country Men, yeah. It's funny. I've actually seen one before. Just
really?
Because, yeah. Never seen it used, but like, it's like, I knew some people that had like pigs and cows and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, and then the explanation on it later when he talks about it, like, so yeah, you can't trust a bullet because it will ricochet.
Yeah.
Because they say pigs' heads are really thick.
Mm-hmm.
And
one cow heads.
Yeah. Animals, obviously, all their heads are really thick, and that makes sense to have that because it's just a quick.
Mm-hmm. So then we cut to Chigurh. He's pulling over a car in a cop car. Step out of the car, sir. I love his accent. He's like a fucking his hair is the Skittles commercial when berries and cream guy.
Oh, berries and cream.
He's got the hair. And
the Skittles, yeah. Oh my God.
And it just always reminds me, it's like, oh man.
That's exactly, I always think he's Irish. I see that, and I do think of that hairstyle. It's like this weird dude, and then No Country for Old Men dude.
Yeah. And we see him, he kills him with a bolt gun. He's like, here, could you just stand right there?
And he's just like, what is that? He doesn't give him a moment to like talk more. And they're like, what is that? And
yeah, it's great. And like classic thing when like people are like, oh, in that situation, I would do this. Like, you pulled over by a cop, you don't know what's going on, and you never expect that you're about to die.
Yeah. Well,
it's like when I got mugged, I was like, this isn't real.
Yeah.
This is fake.
Everyone doesn't realize like it's the 80s. Like like no one ever thinks about this small town.
Small town 80s.
Nobody watches a bunch of stuff. Killers weren't like prominently on documentaries and stuff. When all these serial killers were happening, that's when like everyone started like, we got to start latching our doors and everything like that. They always say, back in the day, you didn't have to do that. It's like, no, you had to. This is why there were serial killers.
You're just lucky that you didn't get serial killed. Yeah. So then we cut to Llewellyn Moss, baby. He's hunting pronghorn. Worst part of the movie is the CGI deer. It's bad.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, it's terrible. Also, sorry if you hear some music in the background. There seems to be a party going on somewhere nearby our house.
Woo.
But so he comes across the aftermath of a drug deal gone awry. You got several dead men and some dogs and a wounded Mexican begging for agua.
I don't know what it is about that scene, but coming up to, because most of the time I feel like a movie would be like, he walks up and he sees people talking, then you would just start seeing shooting happen. But he just, it's the coming up to the aftermath, which when I watched it, I was like, oh, this echoes at the end. You come into the aftermath.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know why, but I like it. Just seeing, like, I like interpretations because I like to be imaginative with it and thinking on it. In my head, it adds more to me because I can think on it and imagine it differently. And it's just, you get to add your own spin.
Yeah.
Like mysterious creatures and stuff. I love to think about it.
Yeah. Well, and it's also, and especially for me, because I've seen this so much, it's like, I love to like look at the bullet holes on the guns and just like, they walk you through this whole crime scene so well that you're picturing what happened.
Yep.
And it's like, you don't even really need to see it because like you have this great scene and you have it also playing out in your head at the same time. Fun fact, Grand Theft Auto 5, there's like a Easter egg where they have this whole setup in it. I remember coming across it and I was like, what is this? What, like, is this supposed to be a mission? They're like, it's the No Country for Old Men setup. And I looked around, I was like, oh, yeah, there's dead dogs everywhere.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Man, we're getting a Switch 2, a whole new console before Grand Theft Auto 6.
Yeah, I know, it's going to be crazy. So he's kind of looking around. He's like, oh, this isn't right. Like, what's going on here? He goes to search for who did this or where the money is. It's great because we see how smart he is and how his experience at war is helping him. Also, we just saw evil, and now we are potentially seeing a man that is smart enough to combat him. It's the only man in this whole movie that gets a shot on him.
So, just thought of this. So, Anton's character is already on the way, right?
Yes, potentially. Well, I think he may be like getting a call now or something like this.
Well, I guess you do when Moss shows up. They are kind of like, because one guy's eyes were like faded, like dead. So I guess a day, probably some time had gone by and not hearing anything. He probably had already called.
Yeah, I'd assume this was the night before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That dude guy asking for agua, I was like, just, I have a thing about that.
What?
Just going back, dude.
Yeah, we'll get there.
At that point.
I know. So we see Josh Brolin. He then comes across a tree where he finds a dead guy and $2 million in a satchel that he takes to his trailer home and hides a gun and the satchel underneath his house.
I love, Shane brought up a good point about movie people. You think about Josh Brolin's character. He's in a trailer. He is in that world low class. But how smart he is would be a genius. Like someone like that here, but it adds to like, this guy's pretty smart for someone, but in real world, you think about it, be an idiot gone already.
Yeah.
In that world.
Like he's, he's, I don't know, he's experienced. I would say. I won't know how smart he is because he obviously took the money and he like won't give up. But that's also probably a little bit of pride. And he lives in a trailer and he wants $2 million.
He does which doesn't make sense. If he knows there's $2 million, he counted it. He counted the stacks.
Well, I think he just. Well, I don't know if he ever says it's $2 million himself.
He does. He says, "Would you ever stop hunting your $2 million?" And so he knows the money. So either he saw the money.
He probably counted one, and then just didn't look through every single dollar bill. But
you didn't have to. But you could click something that big. You would see the.
Well, so they had the ones in between the hundreds, and they cut out the one so it wouldn't like have a bump over it. So it was the money the tracker was in was cut out so that it, it's like you cut out like a book and hide like a gun in it or whatever. So it closes flatly.
I was getting too nuts with it. I was like, oh, that tracker is probably a radiation detector. The bills are probably irradiated because that's one way you could track money too. And I was like, what am I thinking? That's too much.
They just have a tracker.
Yeah.
And it's not even that great of a tracker. You have to, because it doesn't like point to a location. You just have to like, oh, there's a beep. Now I have to drive around, which is fun. Also, I just love whenever he's looking for the guy with the money. He's like, "What would I do? I guess I'd be looking for shade."
Yep, and that's a good. He's like, "Well, if you went somewhere, because he knew he's probably wounded because he saw blood or something. I don't know exactly, but he's like, "Yep, I come out the way I did." It's like that makes sense too.
Yeah.
Because we're all animals, and he's tracking like an animal.
Yeah, I guess I'd come back the way I came.
He and I love that he saw him sitting there, looked at his watch, and then waited, saw no movement, and was like, all right, he's probably not moving. And one thing, I don't know if that's a fact or not, it kind of made me think of it, why is the watch not on his wrist? And I was like, well, it's hot, and the watch would probably get really hot.
Yeah.
And that's why he keeps
and
it there.
he's sitting still for such a long amount of time because he doesn't want to be seen.
Mhm.
And then we meet his wife, Carla Jean. They have a good back and forth.
I completely forgot
She's
had
a
wife.
Scottish actor. She has a Scottish accent. She does really good with like an Oklahoma, Texas accent.
Wow, that's interesting because she did a good job.
Yeah, she crushes. I love their back and forth. It just feels like a classic, like young married couple that, you know, they'd probably stay together forever, but they eventually hate each other. But right now it's like they're bickering is fun.
Yeah, I just loved his he's like, you keep talking, I'll take you in there and I'll
take you in the back and screw you.
And
it's like one of the best.
I made me laugh and I was like, man, my woman was out here. She'd be like, that's something you would say.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, but it's great. I immediately love the pair.
Mhm.
And then, you know, it just immediately shows that she doesn't ask too many questions. She'll just get mad and not talk, so she won't like keep going into like, what are you doing? Where'd you go? Things like that. And then later that night,
I got it at the getting store.
Later that night, he's laying in bed with his eyes wide open, and he says, "Just can't do it."
What did he say? He said, "All right."
It's like, yeah, something like that, because it's like it's his conscience.
I just like, dude, like in my mind, he like when he says I'm doing something dumber in hell, and I was like, you are like, you're not stupid. You should know at this point. I know he couldn't do it. His conscience at that moment, but I was like, dude, he's dead. He was pallid.
He's bleeding out.
His skin was yellow. He was dying. I was like, you left him there. He's dead.
Yeah, but I think like this is something that comes into play with his war background, right? It's like, you know, killed people. He probably has a lot of regret over it, and he has like some sort of PTSD. Probably.
Yeah, no man, leave. Even like seeing a wounded person, no matter if they're enemy or not, if depending on certain people, like you can't do that.
Yeah.
It will eat at you.
I think he just wants to.
I got this money. I don't want it to eat away at me the rest of my life.
Yeah,
if I could have done something.
And he's like, I just got to do something. I'm here now. I'm gonna be good. And also, he has PTSD because as he's like leaving this place, you know, I assume this is what this is meaning whenever he's like, it's like, well, tell my mom, if I don't come back, tell my mom I love her. And it's like, he's already dead. And it's like, well, I'll tell her myself.
Yeah.
Like to me, I was like, oh yeah, this guy's probably just he's probably just like mentally a little bit messed up.
Yeah. Cause they were in Nam, right? Nam was rough.
Yeah. Which later will come back to help him when he's trying to get back across the border. So yeah, he goes out. Oh, I fucking love the visuals in this. This is Roger Deakins. He finally won his Oscar for Blade Runner 2049, 20, something, whatever that movie was.
Oh, another Denis in
the Blade Runner movie. Yeah. But yeah, so like I just love the scene. He goes back, he drives his truck up, it's up on the hill. Oh, the shot is so amazing. And it's great storytelling because he comes back, he goes, he's looking around, he opens the door of the water, and then he turns back and there's two trucks up there or another truck up there, and it's like, things about to go. This scene is so perfect.
It's so good, but I was also so mad. I was like, why did you come back?
I know, it's so frustrating. If you didn't come back,
they like eventually, hopefully, it made me think. I was like, if he didn't come back, how like the tracker part, like it changes everything. They wouldn't have known who to go for. He was just randomly hunting. They would not.
Yeah, they just drove around the town.
Yeah, they would have been like trying to find
tracker.
it. And, and I know it sets it up, but it's just one of those like, if you just didn't go back, it's always that one mistake because that sealed his fate was going back.
Yeah, it's kind of like Fargo. It's like
he went back and he's trying to do the right thing.
Yeah.
In the process, I'm sitting here thinking like, he's not a bad guy. If I can't, like, obviously I would never, like, if I saw dead bodies, I would run and go get the cops.
Yeah.
But being in this mindset of this person, that money, I was like,
it's like, that's opportunity, man. Yeah. That's like the rest of your life not doing it. He's retired.
Yeah.
Especially like now he can buy any house he wants.
He could do what he needs to.
It's like if he just got that money and immediately went like, Carla Jean, we're leaving now. It's like, we're picking up your mom. We're living in Tennessee now. It all probably worked out.
Yep.
But so he turns around and then all of a sudden you see that I guess the Mexican guys they're stabbing his tires and stuff. And the lights turn on and they're driving down. He's like, fuck. Yeah, and they start shooting at him as he dies under. And then what I love is it's been a very slow paced, like all like like most of it's just been a camera panning. There's not a lot of handheld, but then like the chaos of the moment where he's running, it's dark and you see like the lights shining on him and like just kind of around whenever he's running away, like the landscape, it just gets me.
It's so good. And another thing that's great about this, in action moments, no shaky cam.
Well, it had just that one when he was running, but like I felt like it added to the intensity of it. And it wasn't too long.
Well, you don't need a lot of it. Like, a girlfriend wanted me to watch the Bourne movies and watch that first one, and I said, I'm struggling to watch this. There is
Paul
so
Greengrass,
much.
he kind of started that.
It's so much. I'm like, I don't know why. If I had, like, back then when I watched this, if I was an aspiring filmmaker, or if I would look at it and be like, dude, no. I would have been like, the movie's good. If I was like some famous, director and they were asking me, I'd be like, just stop it. Because like, I feel like when we got John Wick and there's no shaky cam, I was like, this is what you need. Focus on your action. You're just doing like, I don't know what his reasoning for it was. It to help like make it feel like you're in the action, but I don't like it.
Yeah, I can't remember what he said. The reason, I think it was just kind of his style that he liked, and people really liked it in the 2000s. But I think we got so much of it at once.
I didn't even like it first watching it. I was like, I don't like this. Like, I'm trying to focus. It's just like with the Transformers films. There's so much like CGI jumping around stuff. You don't know what's going on.
Yeah,
I want to know if you put me in there where I can focus on the scene, you can appreciate it so much more.
Yeah, and that's like, it really kind of inspired like what the 2000s fight scenes and stuff where it's like close up action. The thing I always complain about Alien Covenant, where I'm like, I can't understand like when the Fassbenders fight. I'm like, I don't know what's happening. Yes. I have no idea who's hitting who. And I think it all came from Paul Greengrass.
And I can't not, when I think about that, like all the stuff and that first Bourne movie, I can't just not imagine someone behind there going, you're shaking a camera the whole time.
So yeah, then as they're running, he like falls down like this cliff, and then like they release the dog.
But he knew where he was going.
Yeah, they release the dogs, which I love. Oh, the scene is so tense. I remember. So they release the dogs. He jumps into the water. They shoot the water and doesn't hit him.
Well, he goes under. He knew to go under.
Yeah.
Well, it's not even a shotgun. Even if it
breaks the bullet. Yeah.
It stops it completely.
Thank you, Mythbusters, for showing me how bullets and water work.
Yeah, no, that's why. And again, I keep interrupting. John Wick 2, when or was that? That was it was 3. That one guy where they're fighting under the water, he's shooting him from a distance, and it's just losing its momentum. And John Wick pulls up to him and pulls it point blank and shoots him. I was like, yes, it's so good.
Just even like the fire would burn his throat.
Oh my God,
from the gun.
So good.
But then I love like he jumps in the water and he's swimming. The dogs chase him. Like the dog's like hauling ass.
I love because a real dog's like, I know, like obviously they probably kept making sure the dog was safe, but that dog being real and swimming and doing it was so good. And then like Josh Brolin's character swimming with one arm too, because he just got pegged in the shoulder. It's like, this is so good.
Yeah. And then, he gets out of the water in his gun. He's like drying it off, blowing on it.
I loved all that little detail.
I just remember me and Richard watching it for the first time. I'm sitting in his couch and he had like the big box screen TV, like a giant one. And like the dog's running up to him. I just remember screaming, kick the dog, he's going to get you. And then he shot him. I was like, oh, thank God.
I kind of got pulled out of that moment. I was sitting here like, I was tense, but Broly was laying in my lap. Yeah. Girlfriend just went to sleep and I was like, and he kept going, making noises. He started barking. I just had to clinch. I was like, shut up, shut up.
Don't make me do this to you. So perfect. I love it. And then he gets away after he jumps through the water. It's a great tense scene. I love the dog almost getting him. It's so crazy. Then we cut to Anton Chigurh at a gas station. He's very antagonistic to the gas station clerk.
I love this scene. So tense. And the guy who's doing it, I could see like props to him, this one-off little spot, because I could feel his tension and his nervousness.
Yeah.
Because they're all just like, oh, just passing the time, little small town talk and stuff. Yeah, and then you have this guy who's like, you're like, whoa, what?
That's why you just like, don't say the wrong thing to out-of-towners, man.
And
then they lived in your neighborhood, you'd probably have known them.
That whole scene was so good. And like that whole like friendo thing.
Yeah. And it's great because it tells you the coin is telling you when the setting of all this is taking place, because it's 1958. It's been traveling 22 years to get here, and now it's here, and it's either heads or tails, and you have to say, call it.
And his like explanation is like, well, what am I betting? It's like, you've been betting with your whole life with it. And it's like, God, this is so good.
It's like, I need to know what I stand to win.
And then when he gave him that coin, and his whole explanation is like, don't throw it in there. It'll just become another coin. He's trying
to put it in your pocket.
He's like, he's trying to explain to him, like, this saved your life.
Yeah.
It's so good. His character. And Another thing that shows this guy's psychotic, he's eating sunflower seeds and eating the shells with it.
Yeah. And like just to even like make it like just to mind fuck the guy even more. Cause he's like, where do you want me to put it? Anywhere, not in your pocket, where it'll get mixed with the others and become just a coin, which it is. And it's like, what?
Yes. Well, he's showing him, it's like, I want you to remember this because he wants to fuck with him.
Yeah.
I want you to remember that this coin right here was your life.
Yeah. It is wild because I've almost gone through like every scene of this movie and I could have said, this is my favorite scene. This is my favorite scene.
Oh, there's so, like this whole movie, there's so many scenes. Like this is a movie I could sit here like that. This is my favorite scene. No, this is my scene. Like it's some scenes, the whole movie and every part of it, love.
Yeah.
Every scene is so good.
Yeah.
And I love also like when he's just questioning him, like, well, what time do you close?
It's like,
no, he knows he's freaking out and he's just like squirming and he's just loving
and
it.
It's like, what time do you go to bed? I say around 9:30. Should I come back then? It's like, all right, well, I'm going to be staying up for the next week with a shotgun pointed at my door.
Mm-hmm. And then he's like, oh, so you married into it. And he's like, well, that's how you want to see it. It's like, there's no way to see it.
He's offended by it.
Uh-huh.
And it's wild.
It's just like, because he doesn't, like I said, he's no nonsense. He's like, like this whole thing of like you normal people try and put this facade of something that what it is on. It's like, no, you married into it and you did. But
the thing is, I could see the backstory being like, oh, well, I had my own job and we're happy because he says like, oh, we didn't live here originally. We just came here to take over this or to count. We just came back here to be closer to our family. It's like, well, yeah, the father was probably sick. They probably wanted to move close and they didn't want to shut down the store and he wanted to keep it going. Probably a completely wholesome and fine story. It's not like a story about greed or anything.
No, it's just
he doesn't like it.
He's like, no, because he's minimalistic. He's like, he cuts through the bull crap and that's how it is. Bare bones. Like obviously he sees things black and white, I would say.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, like this is what it is. He's like, I know how it actually is, and that's what it was. It's black and white moment.
I'm also assuming that he's probably an immigrant himself. And he probably made this whole hitman thing up by himself. And
man,
so maybe
watching this movie, I was like, I want more of this character. I would love if we just got. I know, I don't want sequels, but I was like, if we got it with the same directors.
Give me a 10-minute movie, just like a 10-minute short. Like just give me a little bit more of his life. Yeah, it'd been great. We get back to the house. Llewellyn tells like Carly Jean, we gotta go
because he's crawling under the it's like whatever the trailer, getting all that stuff.
Yeah, and it's like whatever you don't take, you'll never see again. So we gotta go. And she's like, Llewellyn, what have you gotten yourself into?
And he's got fucking shotgun blast in his back, and she's just like, picking glass out and everything.
But it's like, I mean, I guess he just like kind of dominates the relationship. So it's like, look, this is what we're doing, and then it's like, would you do anything? What would you do to get your $2 million back and stuff like that? Yeah. And then she's like, yeah. So he sends her off to her mother's and he makes his way to a motel in the next county where he hides the satchel in an air vent of his room. Love it. Because first time you watch it, it's like, what are you doing? And you see this string. So it's like, oh, it's just so he can hide it and then easily pull it back. But then we see what's going to happen soon. Then we see two men along with Chigurh who hired him are at the drug deal site. That's a dead dog. Yes, it is. Or my favorite part, I wanted to start it with it. It's like, mine riding bitch.
Yeah, that made me laugh. And I was like, man, this is not the person you want to say this to.
Yeah. And Chigurh strips the car of its tags so that the cops can't follow him. The men give a receiver that tracks the money. Then Chigurh kills them both.
He's like, I got this. Because like you explained earlier, like why he did this. Like, why did he kill these people? I was like, well, maybe it was because boss guy in the building. I don't know his name.
Yeah, honestly, I'm not 100% sure why he does kill these two.
I think it's just what you said. He's like, I don't need help. I've got this.
Yeah, and it's like just getting rid of loose ends. I don't know.
Well,
because he kills Stephen Root's character, and it seems like he's just pissed that he like sent them off. But then I'm assuming that the reason Carson Wells is brought back was because, well, it's like, hey, you just killed two of my guys here. So, like, we don't know what you're doing anymore.
They don't understand. He doesn't understand who he hired to do this.
Yeah, and it's also like, are you even going to give the money back to me or are you going to give it to whoever, did someone else hire you, you know? So that's kind of how I feel. It's kind of a little murky, but that's kind of what makes it great at the same time.
They do mention, like, he might just kill you just because you inconvenienced him. He's a person of, like, kind of took it as an insult. Like, I don't need this. I can do it.
Yeah. And then we meet back up with Sheriff Bell, who is getting his horse ready to go to the site. And his wife is very sweet. It's like, don't hurt nobody. Well, I don't know if I can do that. Bell is on the trail of the killings with his deputy Wendell. Love Wendell. Sheriff Bell says he recognizes Moss's truck, and they go and investigate the scene. This is where it's like, it's a mess, ain't it, Sheriff? If not, it will do till the mess gets here. I love this scene. So it's very slow. They're just walking around it. But like with the guy on the horse, the scene is shot so perfectly, and like the continuity of it where he's just like walking around the whole thing. And then the scene ends where it's just, you have Sheriff Bell sitting there, and then Wendell walks up behind him, and there's no continuity issues.
No,
it's so beautiful.
So good, because he's also monologuing about, like, he's explaining the scene, like, well, this happened here, this here, and they're not like, obviously they've seen some stuff because they're able to analyze the scene. There's not like the typical younger kid. He's like, I don't know what's going on. The older one explaining everything. He's actually like using someone who's deducing stuff.
Wendell's the one that's like, oh, so these are point blank. So this was later. These guys are all decaying. And another thing I like about this movie, so they had to get really expensive fake blood to put on all these characters, because when they're starting to use like the cheaper one, bugs and ants were crawling all over the people and stuff. So they had to go with a very expensive fake blood that the ants didn't want to eat, because it's all syrup, it's all sugar, corn syrup.
One thing I noticed is Tommy Lee's character. What happened to like the drugs? Because he lifted it up and the drugs were there, and he looked down there. He's like, "There's not as much dust built up here. The drugs are here."
Yeah.
So did Anton take it back? Or?
I don't think Anton did. I think I'm assuming the two guys, I'm assuming like the cartel probably came back, got all of it, and then like that's how the other guys ended up finding out about it. Maybe I don't know. I'm assuming both sides of the disagreement both came back to like, well, this was the meeting point. We haven't heard from any of these people.
Get our drugs back at least. Yeah. We're not getting our money.
Yeah, well, I'm sure one side came to try to find the money. The other side probably came to try to find the drugs.
Brown drugs? Is that what he called
Mexican brown dope.
That's heroin, isn't it?
I don't know. I'm assuming.
I think black tar. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Let's see where we at. So then Chigurh, he goes to Moss's place to find it empty. So he has himself some milk. And this is where we get to see how he gets into the doors for the first time.
I love he walks in, looks at the mail, smart. He sees the calling and he learns where they're calling to. So now he knows where he needs to look, because it's like, well, you're here.
Yeah.
I can find you.
And I also love when he pops the door open and it makes the crease on the wall. It's so hard that you can see the outline of the wall.
It's showing like how hard it can hit.
Yeah.
And it sets it up for later in the scene in the hotel.
Yeah. And then he has some milk and he looks into the TV screen, which is great, because it's going to be very frustrating if Sheriff Bell watched this movie and be like, damn, I was literally sitting in the same spot he was, looking at the same TV, and I just missed him. So then he goes to the trailer park office. Love this lady. She's like one of my favorite actors in this, because he's like, oh, where does he work? It's like, I'm not allowed to give out that information.
He wanted to kill her,
yeah,
but it shows you how he's just someone who's like, I don't want to cause too much ruckus right now, because if I do,
that's not that. It just pops up sometimes.
Okay. He looks and he's like, you're lucky someone else is here.
Yeah.
Or you would be gone. Right
yeah.
now.
And he probably would kill her, because like, you don't need to know what I look like. But I just love whenever like he's leaving and she just like sits up a little bit and like stares, gives him a look.
Like,
and
she's
I'm
not scared of you.
I fucking got you.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, it's probably the only person he was ever scared of in this entire movie.
Yeah. Well, so some people like, I've seen enough. But it's like, you don't understand until like they actually do something.
It's like, thank God there was somebody in the bathroom. So then the deputy and sheriff are at Llewellyn's. They notice the lock has been shot out. They enter. Bell notices the lock hitting the wall. Then he notices the milk is sweating. And he's like, oh man, we should probably put like a APB.
For who?
Like, for who? Who? What do we say? Looking for man who just drank milk.
Now, if they had thought, I mean, they could have went up to the front desk.
That's what I told Natalie. I was like, this is like one of the few things in the movie where it's like, whoa, but also
you wouldn't think to go there, because like, how are they going to know? Like, they wouldn't know.
In his old age, he's like the point of the whole movie. He's not cut out for this anymore. Like maybe Wendell should have been like, hey, let's ask around, see if anybody saw this guy. So, and then I love that you get the line, he's seen the same things. They're talking about Llewellyn and like, oh, they must have got away, right? And it's like, he's seen the same things I've seen, and it certainly made an impression on me. And that's when we cut back to like looking at the TV. I don't know. Look, dude.
How they set this stuff up, it's just, I would love Like there's certain directors I would love to watch the process of it and like just kind of seeing how they work in their process. These would be like some of the directors I would love to see, like Wes Anderson, Denis Villeneuve, and the Coen Brothers.
Yeah.
Seeing their process and what they come up with, because seeing a creative person in their work is so different. It's like when you watch someone who's doing like drawings and stuff and you see them just going, you're like, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I would love to be like just watching on the set.
On a movie set, yeah. Yes. I know. It's like, man, I need to win the lottery and produce a movie and be like, here, Coens, let me just watch you make this.
I think about
do
that.
whatever you want.
Off topic, it made me think of like, always, you think about winning the lottery. I was like, I would like to set up something, my own movie company. And when directors like, well, I'd like to do this and stuff, executive producers want to do this and be like, I was like, I trust you. And then just like, because there's always something that I read something that's like, oh, we always have this with like people who are executive producers or doing it. People on sets, well, like it was like a scene for a movie where it was like death and stuff like that. And it was a gloomy room and they put a bright red rose in there, a different flower. And they did that on purpose because they knew it didn't fit. So that way when an executive comes in and because they want to feel like they contributed somehow. Yeah. He's like, oh, that doesn't belong. They're like, oh, thank you. We'll do that. And then they take it out to feel like they produced did something. Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah.
I remember this because I said, oh, I wish I won the lottery so I could like produce someone's movie or something. I remember when Mark Ruffalo, he made a movie. And I remember listening to just him talk about the process of getting money for it. It's really hard for indie people to do it. That's why Robert Downey Jr. doesn't want to do indie movies because they always end up asking him for money.
Well, he got it. I mean, he got Dr. Doom money now.
Yeah. But I remember Mark Ruffalo being like, you just kind of got to like take what you can get, and you meet with so many people that are willing, that potentially will give you money. And he says, I met with so many people that have like won a lottery that will say they want to help produce the movie, but then they end up backing out at the last second. And I was like, oh, that's probably what I'd actually end up doing.
Like, that's the thing about that. I think it's one of those, like, if you're going to do that, you have to be someone who's smart with the money on the lottery. You have to have accounts and stuff and be like, this is my budget. I have to talk to my accountant. I have this money. You have to be willing. Like, if I did it, I would be one of those people. I've covered all my bases. I know this might not pay off, but I know where this is like my fun money. I'm doing it for the fun of it.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Plus, like, I mean, like, you got to deal with like taxes and stuff. And it's like, holy shit, if I get into this, there's going to be like years of like dealing with me putting money into this one thing.
Like, you have to be set up for it. It's not just like, because people who have lottery don't seem to think like, oh, I'll just do this. Like, no, you need to like make sure you're prepared for this. Talk to accountants, talk to lawyers, talk to all this. Like, what am I going to have? Yeah. I would want to cover those bases. Like, I know what I'm going to have to deal with. I'm ready.
And it's one of those things where it's like, if you win the lottery, you're like, I don't want to do all this shit. I won the lottery. I just want to chill and have fun.
That's what assistant's for.
Yeah. So then we see Chigurh. He's calling all the numbers on Llewellyn's phone. We hear him that he called the mother. Llewellyn goes out and buys some shoes and socks. And on his way back to the motel, when he does buy the socks, it's like, well, we only got white. It's like, white's the only one I wear. I don't know.
That is like, all we got is white. Like, who cares?
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's just like a little funny line. It's like a classic Coen Brothers type thing. So on his way back to the motel, he notices a truck. So he has the cab driver take him to a new motel. And the cab driver's like, I don't want any funny business. It's like, you're in a hole. I'm trying to get you out right now.
He said, like, you're in a jackpot.
Yeah,
that's an interesting way of saying that. But okay, he's like, you're in a jackpot. I'm trying to get you out.
And gives him like 100 or something.
Yeah, so I was like, this is so, because it shows Llewellyn's still smart. He sees a car he doesn't recognize because his motel has like no other vehicles. Yeah. And he recognizes the truck because of the one that showed up that night.
Yeah, and it's just a little more of the theme of the movie where like this cab driver's like, get out. Oh, here's some money. All right, I'll keep going.
Money talks when you're in that world.
So Llewellyn goes out and buys a gun and a tent for some tent poles. He just originally wants some tent poles, but they don't have it. And then he's like, I'll buy a tent. Which one do you want? The one with the most poles.
Yeah, and he just wanted the pole so he could pull the thing out. Yeah.
Because at the hotel, we see he saws off his shotgun. He goes back to the original hotel and gets a second room across from his first room, because he's staying at 138 originally, and then he gets 38, which is just on the other side of it, I guess.
138 was their room.
Yeah, well, it's the room that he originally put the money in, that vent.
Were they staying in his room?
They were waiting for him to come back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they weren't staying in any room. They just broke into his room. Okay, because I was like,
so he took because she said you could take this room, it's right across. Like, no, I'm fine with going an extra room over to like 137, right?
Well, I think he wanted 38. He wanted the one on the other side of the room.
Well, I remember because I was staring that he went into 138, but maybe
Chigurh did to shoot all the bad guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
I can't remember.
I'd have to rewatch it
I just watched it
immediately.
last night and I can't.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember myself.
It's like I needed the map as well.
I love that he did that because he went and stayed at the other hotel and he came back. Was it the next day he came back and told the lady he was wanting to get another room?
Yeah. I love it. It's like, it's got 2 double beds.
I love it because she's like, I don't care about all these beds. It's just me.
Just let me have a dang thing. All right. So in his new room, he listens for people through the walls while he's trying to like pull out the suitcase. We then cut to Chigurh driving, and now his receiver is picking up the signal. Llewellyn is constructing a hook with his tent poles to receive his briefcase from the tents. Chigurh finds the room Llewellyn first bought. He buys a room himself and analyzes the layout. Then he takes his shoes or his boots off, heads over to the hotel room.
So they don't care him walking. I'm like, that's so smart.
Yeah, it's great because you're seeing like the end of Llewellyn's process. And then like during that scene, you're also getting the beginning stages of Chigurh's process. And it's like fun. And I just love that he's hearing like the gunshots and stuff through like the vents. And he's like,
when he gets in that room,
it's so tense.
That first moment when he gets in that room and he shoots that guy, you don't just, most of the time they shoot him and the chests are gone, shoots his arm and it's dangling there. I was like,
yeah. And his little silencer. So I guess that's something from like the book and it's not something that exists.
Yeah.
So they had to make up their own thing. So he has like 2 things. So like, think about it. Chigurh probably had to make the silencer and he probably made the cattle thing. And it's like, he's such a ingenuitive
person.
bad guy.
Well, like that noise too that it makes when he shoots that shotgun, I swear I heard noises like that at the factory.
Really?
And every time it's one of those things like if you can make certain noises in a movie that you think of, anytime I hear something like that, think of that immediately.
Yeah. So he's burst into Moss's hideout, Moss's motel room at night. Chigurh surprises a group of Mexicans, set to ambush Moss, and murders them all. During all this, Moss is getting the briefcase and can hear the gunshots. Chigurh searches the room and then notices the vents. But I went a little too faster. I love the shooting the wall, shooting the guy in the bathroom. But, you know, like kind of the more haunting one is the guy in the shower, right? Because he's like pleading for his life.
I mean,
but then he like closes the thing and
just
then
so he doesn't
shoots
get
it.
blood on him.
Yeah. It's just like,
I love it. Well, he's like, didn't he say, how'd you find it? How'd you find it?
Yeah.
Because he thinks they have it.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
he just taking everybody out. And when he pulls that shower curtain, I'm like, it's not because he's staring someone down because he doesn't care.
Yeah, he doesn't care.
Like, no blood.
Just
because there's so much splatter when you shoot someone point blank with a shotgun.
Because then he can just get in and out and he won't have blood all over him.
And then he takes his socks off.
And then whenever he goes in, and I love that he's like pulling change out. And of course he's not going to go for the quarter.
Yeah.
Because he's got to flip that at some point. He grabs the dime. And then what I love is that because the guy in the bathroom that got shot, like shot his Uzi and like it went all the way up to the roof. And whenever he pulls off the vent thing, there's gun holes in the vent.
I didn't even notice that.
So I'm like, oh, fuck, they're so good.
Details.
They're so good. So he searches the room. He notices the vents. By the time Chigurh removes the vent cover with a dime, Moss is already back on the road with the cash. And this is where we cut to the scene where we meet Carson Wells.
I do love that scene. That guy who's driving him, he's like, shouldn't be doing that. Even a young fella like you.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be hitchhiking. I was like,
you shouldn't pick up hitchhikers, dude.
Yeah, you're in the 80s. You know what happens with hitchhikers? You die.
But it's just like another person just trying to do a good thing. But like, hey, dude, like if this was at the wrong time, you'd be in trouble too, guy.
Oh, yeah.
So we meet Carson Wells. He is talking to Stephen Root, King of the Hill fame, Mike Judge guy. Because he's like the fatter guy in King of the Hill.
Like
the balding guy from King of the Hill. That's who does the voice. Yeah.
Isn't it Bill?
Yeah, Bill. Yeah.
I never knew that was his voice.
And then the stapler guy, and he's in Barry.
It's so funny because I put it down. My note was stapler guy, always a boss now.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Because I just watched a movie with Andy. No, guy from The Office, Andy.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Watched a movie with him where he goes on a trip and he's a boss in that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's great. So it's essentially just a meetup because Carson Wells has got a search. He's also now on the search for the money. And he's like kind of, I guess, supposed to keep a lookout on Chigurh, potentially. It seems like he's just out for the money and he wants to get it back before Chigurh gets it.
In this moment, like when he's getting the money, he knows that the cartel is looking for him. And then he's like, they're getting killed. Someone else is looking for this money.
Yeah.
He's like, it's this thing. He makes this connection. obviously they're following me because they know.
Yeah.
Someone else is following me. How is this other person? That's when he's laying awake, has another moment. He's like, there ain't no way.
Yeah, there ain't no way. And I love in this scene, it's my favorite line from the scene. It's like, Stephen Root's character, just how dangerous is he, Carson Wells, compared to what? The bubonic plague. And he says that he will find him and take care of the situation. I don't know. He just comes in, Woody Harrelson, and just kind of like steals.
I love. He's like, I didn't say to say. He's like, you're a man not to waste a good old empty chair. And it's like, this is such a good scene. Yeah, this is so. Really. I just love the banter and everything.
And just Woody Harrelson, he's so charismatic.
No matter what, even when he's nuts.
Yeah, and I don't know. I love the fact that like he just like says dates, and he's like, I remember dates, times, faces, everything. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, well, that's the one thing holding you back is that you're not a psychopath, potential, or as much of a psychopath as Chigurh. So in a border town, we see Moss. He gets a room and tells the man at the desk to call him if anyone else checks in. By anyone, I mean any swinging dick.
Yep.
He goes to bed, but wakes up saying, there just ain't no way. Moss finally finds the electronic bug, and but it's a little bit too late because
he calls the front desk. You can hear it ring because you
hears a commotion first, and then he like calls it, and it's such a great thing because I was gonna bring that up that he calls and you hear the phone that he's got, but you hear it in the background too, and it's like, most people wouldn't have done that. No, but it's it just makes it haunting.
No, and like his like being quiet because like when the girlfriend's asleep, that's how I am. I'm putting stuff like, you just drop stuff like when you put something down, it leaves a little noise. Mm-hmm. He's very cautious to like drop it slowly so it puts nothing on there at all.
Yeah. And this next part that we're about to have, it's like I noticed like this time I'm like, oh, this is what separates Moss from Chigurh. Because after he calls down the desk and gets no answers, he like turns out the light and waits for Chigurh. We see feet standing at the door. My immediate thought is like, shoot. But it could be anybody. And I think Moss thinks like, oh, this could be like the guy at the front desk wasn't by his door and he went up to.
I would have shot. And I was like, and same thing I was thinking about you. He's still someone with a conscience, and he doesn't do it. And I'm like, if you just pulled that trigger, man, in my head, I would have been like, I would have pulled and just suffered later.
Yeah. It's like, just hope it was like a certain person. But then, so the guy, we hear Chigurh undoing the light bulb in the hallway, and now it's dark, and then he's getting ready for him to like kick the door in, but it gets me every time. It jump scares me every single time because I always listen to this movie really loud because it's so quiet and I don't want Snake to bark, and then bah, and I'm always like, oh, and then it hits him right in the side.
And that moment of delay right there is also another thing that it calls back to the other scene when he hits it and it leaves that indent in the wall. It shows you how powerful it is.
So it like puts a hole essentially in his side.
I thought
because that's where he's getting the.
I thought that's where he got shot.
Oh wait, it probably is where he got shot.
But it shows you that moment of delay that hits him. Like, oh, it makes sense because of how much power it has. It would stun him because if he didn't get stunned, he might have been able to get him. But that stun moment was enough for Anton's character to do what he needed to.
Yeah, and then we get the big firefight between the two characters. It spills out onto the streets and it leaves them both wounded. But so I love like running in the empty motel. He jumps out. The guy, he goes like Anton tries to shoot, or no. So he jumps out.
He goes
and
to
then
the
he
front.
runs back through it to be like, oh, I'm gonna go backwards because he'll probably think I'll just keep trying to run this way. So he's trying to outdo him, but Chigurh is so smart. I'm assuming he just goes to a different hotel room and tries to shoot him through that window.
Because he has the advantage, and that like it. I think it's because it's kind of connected. He can look at both sides to it.
Yeah,
and he's checking because he also knows this is like this person. He's like knows it.
This guy's a little bit smarter than I expected.
He's able to anticipate. He's like, I know what you're gonna do.
Yeah, and then so he got the shot from the hotel. He's running in the empty town. Llewellyn goes in to get into this old man's truck. This is a scene I did for my editing class that I was talking about, not even thinking, this is a very bloody scene when the guy gets shot in the back of the head and like you have the giant burst of like blood shooting out. And I'm like, I just remember like some of the girls going like, ugh. And I'm like, oh no, I forgot I'm desensitized.
Yeah.
And so like he shoots the man in it and Llewellyn has to kind of control the thing. Here's something that I kind of thought for the first time. I'm like, I'm pretty sure Llewellyn crashed that truck on purpose Because he was driving fine.
Well,
then he turns and he's going straight, and then he like purposely runs into the car. And it's the fact that when he gets out, he lightly closes the door. I think he did it so he could get a step on and to kill Chigurh there.
I could see that, but I could see why he wrecked too, because those things just swing like boats. Was that scene also happening where Anton drives over the bridge and just tries to shoot the bird?
Oh yeah, we already skipped it.
Well, is there anything on that? Is he just wanting to do it just for fun? Because I was like, he could have killed it, but he chose just to fuck with it. And
while watching it last night, I meant to be like, kind of look up like what that's supposed to represent. But I think it's just like he just is a fucking psychopath.
I mean, that's what they do.
But he missed, so that's
why
why
on purpose though. That's I feel like because he was literally right there. He could have shot it, but he chose not to and just let it fly away. It's weird. And I think part of me was thinking is like, does he have like a superstition thing? Like if you pass some kind of bird like this, it's not good. And he's like, oh yeah, not gonna happen.
I don't know. Damn, should have looked it up. Also, something I like about this, because they're having the whole fight. But as Chigurh gets to the car, the truck, he's like, oh shit, I think this is a setup. And he immediately turns around and ducks out of the way, but gets a little bit of a shot on him.
Follows the blood just like him.
Yeah. And like Chigurh is able to run away. And then he's like, damn, he got away. But what I love is, because you can kind of see he's watching the reflection of Chigurh. He's like the Shape from Halloween. Almost. He's the boogeyman. He literally is the boogeyman. And I was like, oh, I can put that in my notes. So then we got Moss. He's gonna decide he's gonna cross the border. He sees 3 guys walking towards him, and he asks for his shirt for $500. One guy, were you in a car wreck? Were you in a car wreck?
Another thing about that scene, I was like, I guess these, like, you got to think, oh, they're asking for money. They're not good people. It's like, they're better than they could have, because he probably cracked open that case.
Yeah.
And brought them money. And gave them money. They could have just kicked his ass and took it.
Yeah, right. Well, I know he had he put some in his pocket, so I think he had a little extra in his pocket. So Moss flees across the border. We see him throw the money over the fence, which is smart.
Smart, not smart. Because I'm like, how many? I feel like people would kind of be there, but I mean, they're really not being strict on that border right there.
Yeah, not in the 80s.
And just when he gets the shirt, has the beer in his hand, I feel like that was really smart, because he knew the guy was just kind of not caring, because those guys just walk through. But he's obviously like super bloody, and the guy's sitting here like half asleep, like something seems odd.
Yeah, but he had the beer, so he could be like, I'm drunk.
Oh, he's just some drifter who's got into a fight or something.
Yeah. And then we cut to him, and he collapses, I guess, like on the steps of some sort of Mexican street or whatever. And you got the mariachi people like strumming, the mariachi band. Like what they're saying is, you wanted to fly without wings. You wanted to touch the sky. You wanted many riches. You wanted to play with fire. So it's essentially, they're just singing about like the whole like theme of the movie, essentially.
Which is hilarious.
And it's also just a really funny scene at the same time. It is,
because he's sitting here like, lucky he didn't bleed out and die.
Yeah.
And then wakes up, and I love when he lifts up the shirt and they're quiet and they're like
ooh.
Oh shit.
Then he gives them money. It's like, ask for hospital. This scene doesn't exist in the in the book. So we cut to Chigurh, who, dude, talking about process. We cut to Chigurh, who blows up a car so he can steal medical supplies from a pharmacy.
And he does that scene because, like, he's in the truck or whatever he's in, and you're like, oh, he's gonna start trying to clean himself up real quick. He's like, no, he's gonna go do it the right way.
He's messed up.
Yeah,
because after we see him put the shirt into the gas tank, he puts like a little cardboard like thing that you'd find in a medical thing, and like lights the rag on fire, and then just walks into it and explodes. Everybody's running around,
freaking out. You
see him limping.
That explosion, he doesn't even blink. And I'm like, that's so.
He probably knows the timing and everything of it because he's crazy. Then he just goes in there, grabs everything during all the chaos, and walks out. And then we cut to him. He's cleaning his wounds and dressing them. What I love is because we cut to him and he's like pale, he's sweating, he's like fucked up. And it's like the first time we saw him, like, whoa, this guy he's killable.
Well, that's the thing I like about this is that sometimes when you watch movies like with people like this, if they're not like jacked up serial killer like Jason, they always try and make them too, like, he's impossible to kill. It's like, no, these people are human, and they show that. Like, that's what's great. It's like, you can kill him. It's just you have to be smart and better than him.
And it gives you hope. Moss could make it.
Yeah, because he's like, oh, he wounded him. And
sometimes kind of the issue with some of these like Michael Myers, Jason, and all them, it's like They're like, we're not going to be able to kill him.
Well, that's
So
what I
are we
also
doing?
like about the Predator movie. You see him stitching himself up. Like,
Yeah.
they're
If he bleeds, he can die.
It can kill it.
You can kill it.
And like, you're right, it does give hope. But in this moment, Chigurh he amps it up more. He's like, I know how. He like takes it. He starts planning more instead of just going himself. He's like, I've got plans now, because he takes into account his wound.
Yeah, and something that this movie shows, like, Anton's a big dude.
He is.
Bardem's like, whenever he's like naked on the toilet, and I'm like, damn, this guy's just big.
He's just a tall person. Like, he's got a natural big build. He doesn't. I don't know if he really works out, but he's just a
big guy.
Tall dog.
I'm like, oh yeah, like if I was in this world, it'd be like, especially when he pulls over that guy in the cop car, when he's in the cop car, I'm like, he's very intimidating.
Yeah, intimidating will make you do stuff.
Yeah. And then we cut to Sheriff Bell asking about the cars. He says he's going to go see Carla Jean at the, I love it also through this whole thing, like the DEA and everybody's like, they're constantly being like, trying to get a hold of him. He's like, I'll call him back later. It's like, oh, do you want to go back to the crime scene? It's like, is there new bodies? And like, no, then why would I go back? It's like,
I love that. That's a good point. Like, why? Like, he's like, I saw what I needed to.
But also at the same time, I think it shows like he's not cut out to be a cop anymore. It's just,
he's ready to like.
It's like I mean, part of this, it goes along with not going to the desk lady at the trailer park. It's like, maybe if you're potentially a little bit better of a cop,
he was probably and also he's showing like, he's like, he's the old timer now too.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm not like cut out for this type of stuff because it's very in depth.
It's all passing them by. So at the hospital, Carson Wells offers protection from Chigurh in return of the money. Kind of talk about Chigurh a little bit. Moss, like, what is he, the ultimate badass? He's like, yeah, pretty much. Moss says he doesn't need it because he won't find him, but Wells found him in 3 hours. And like, he's like, he knows where you're going, dude. Like, we know where your wife, your mother, everybody is. Carson says he could be going to Odessa to kill his wife. Carson tells him he is not cut out for this. He tells him he is staying at a hotel across the road. It's the same one that essentially he was staying at. Moss says he could just make a deal with Anton, but Carson says he will kill him just to do it, just for inconveniencing
him. Yeah, and I love because he also showing him, he's like, I know you. Tell me when you can't handle this.
Yeah.
He knew he would do it.
Yeah.
And I don't know how Anton knew about this guy because it seemed like he knew him.
Yeah, I'm assuming they just kind of maybe know each other because he remembers, because he met him once. He says in the Stephen Root, it's like, yeah, I met him once, like something, blah, 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 1970
Okay, so he
something.
knows, and he like...
He doesn't forget faces, and he knows dates.
And he probably knows he's there because he probably found him. He's like, this is my easy way to do it.
Yeah.
Oh, he'll come to me.
And then, so meanwhile, Bell visits Carla Jean and informs her that Moss has tangled himself with some bad people who won't stop till they kill him. Asks her to call him as soon as she hears from Moss so that Bell can protect him. Wouldn't be able to protect him.
No.
But, and then this is where you get the whole scene where he's like thinking about the cattle prod gun. So he's giving this like whole speech about it because his mind just wanders sometimes, as he says. Carson is searching for the briefcase and finds it. He doesn't grab it and goes back to the hotel. There he's followed by Anton. I love this scene where, because he just walks up the stairs out of the right corner. Oh, here comes him. He looks back and Anton's just like smiling at him. It's like, come on, let's go. Let's do this.
One thing I would say I would maybe be a mistake is that this place would be a crime scene because dude was killed. There would have been cops there, local PD, and they would be like,
yeah. I don't know if it'd be like because it is a place of business. I mean, it just seems like the police work near this town in all this area. It's just kind of like, all right, yeah, I see all the bodies. All right, let's keep going.
Well, I don't know. I just was like, they wouldn't be able to get back into this hotel.
Yeah, I would think they wouldn't, but like, I don't know. It may be just...
Because there's the dude who was the person got shot.
Yeah.
That would be like an investigation and stuff and everything.
So they sit in the room. There, Carson says he doesn't have to do it. He says he could take him to an ATM. He's got $14,000 in it. Carson tells him that he knows where the case is and he could get it for him, but Anton says if he knows where it will be, or Anton says he knows where it will be and it will be brought to him. It looks to be the end for Carson. You got the quote, Chigurh, and you know what's going to happen now? You should admit your situation. There would be more dignity into it. Carson Wells, you go to hell, Chigurh. All right, let me ask you something. If the rule you followed brought you to this, of what use was the rule? Carson, Do you have any idea how crazy you are? Anton, you mean the nature of this conversation? I mean the nature of you.
I love it
So
because
good.
like every time he says like he sees him slipping, he knows he's like his facial expressions, Anton's.
Yeah.
And it's just like, huh. It's just like it's happening. He's like, I know what you're doing. You're
It's
doing
like, it's over. It's over. I was dead as soon as you walked behind me.
And like Anton just knows, like he's saying these things like it's the same stuff everyone always says.
Yeah. And what do you think he's meaning by like if the rule you followed brought you to this, what use was the rule?
Kind of didn't understand that part too much.
When I think about it, I kind of think about the Moss taking the water to the Mexican guy in there. It's like, yeah, this one thing where it's like, this is me. This is what I have to do. I have to go help this guy. It's like the rule I'm following.
They're like your own set, like moral compass type of thing, or like what you do. He's like, yeah, if you didn't go here, you wouldn't be in this situation.
Yeah.
It's again on Anton's character of like, you have all these things that you can put in front of it, but if you get down to the basics of it, the bare bones.
Yeah. It also is like brought to like the end of the film whenever he gets hit by the car. It's like you followed all these rules and look, you're got a broken arm, your bone's sticking out. It's like, what was your rules any better than anybody else's, right? And then the phone's ringing. Anton looks at it, shoots.
No
Carson,
delay with him. Like,
didn't even care.
That's why I can see this is the best version. There's no hesitation that you see at the time. They'll just sit there and look, maybe a smirk or something. He just does it, done.
Yeah. And then he picks up the phone call. I love it because you got him casually lifting up his feet because he doesn't want to leave any footprints with blood on it. Chigurh promises Moss that Carla Jean will go untouched if he gives him up the money.
He knows that he won't, because I think he knows this guy. He's like, you could have stopped this already.
Yeah, it's like,
you want it. You're a man who's like your pride type of thing.
Make a special project out of you. Something I love though is when Moss calls, like, is Carson Wells there? Not in the way that you are meaning.
Yeah.
It's so good. So Moss remains defiant. Moss re-enters the U.S. and retrieves the money. I love the little. It's obviously a lot harder to get into America than it was for him to get into Mexico. He's got the guy like grilling him.
And the only way he's like, I was in this company and stuff. Like, oh, okay.
It's like, all right, somebody take care of this man and get him where he's needed. And
I also like the scene where Woody Harrelson's character is at the thing and he was telling him he was in there too. He's like, what does that make us?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it was more of like, I don't know if he's trying to empathize. He's just saying like, I understand you more than you think because I served as well type of thing. Like, yeah. I don't know if he was trying to do like the whole like have something in common, or he's just showing him like, you're not like as good as you think you are. I did the same thing and type of stuff.
Yeah. He's just like, I know you think you can take care of the situation because of the training.
To show him like, I know, I guess that would make sense.
Yeah.
He's like, I was also served. I know what you think. We're can be in the same mindset. You can't do it. You need to listen.
Yeah. And then Moss arranges to rendezvous with his wife at a motel in El Paso to give her the money and send her out of harm's way. Anton goes to the man who hired Carson. He immediately kills him, just walks in and kills him. And apparently, I guess he was hired by that guy. And I love...
I missed some of the scene here because I had...
Messing with Broly or whatever.
I don't know, maybe, but... It was like, why did he do it? Because he says he gets the other guy to talk. Like I really wanted to go back, but I was like, it's late. I can't like go back and analyze.
Well, the other guy's just like
there for a meeting, but
yeah. And mostly what I take from it is just like, are you going to shoot me now? And it's like, did you see me?
But why did he shoot him? Was it just because like, how dare you have these other people?
Yeah, the other people that it's like, what I was supposed to be the one.
And
that
man, when he shot him and like he's like got that peppering all over his face, which is a good detail because shotguns do that, and he's just like got him in the throat and he's slowly like, makes me wonder if like, I know Anton probably just shoots to make sure, but I feel like he can like, I'm gonna shoot you to make you die slowly.
Yeah. So when Carla Jean boards the bus to El Paso, some of the Mexicans who have also been hired by the buyer boss that hired Chigurh are there, and Carla's mother tells them where they are staying. Because they've just been following.
And also
them.
Get that little bit. It's like I knew 3 years ago I got the cancer and stuff.
Yeah,
and,
I got the cancer.
And I'm wondering, like, when I heard that, it made me think. I wonder if that's also part of his motivation for the money. He's like, I can get that money to get the mother treatment.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah,
even though he like
doesn't like her.
has a disdain for her, but
yeah,
he's still like it's his wife, and wife loves the mother. I don't want to watch her die, and cancer sucks. So he's like, I could probably get her some treatment.
And also, this is another way where some younger men are manipulating this older woman. No country for old women as well. Carla calls Belle. She reluctantly accepts Belle's offer to save her husband and tells him on the phone where Moss is headed. Anton receives help from a stranger and asks which airport he should use. After he gets info from him, he kills him and steals his car. I need you to take all the chicken crates out of the back.
I know, and then and then you see him later washing it out, and I'm like, this is like him getting like that other thing, just changing cars all the time. Smart.
Yeah. Moss stops at a hotel and meets a girl, and then we cut to black.
And then we cut to the sheriff driving.
Yeah, we see him driving, and then all of a sudden we see like this pickup truck with, I'm assuming it sounded like they were Mexican guys. They're all like hightailing it out of there. We hear the gunshots and stuff. And we just see that Moss, he goes up to the motel room, and we see Moss laying dead. He let his guard down. Drank a little bit too much, probably.
Well, like in that scene, you could say he let his guard down, but he did. Well, the woman was dead in the pool, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, did they show up immediately? Or?
Well, so, I mean, just from the timeline of the movie, it looks like it's been a little while because it would have taken Bill some time to get there.
So, yeah.
It's probably a few beers in, having a good time.
Well,
nobody's supposed to know that he's going there.
I wonder, it's one of those things you get to think about, which I like. Because like when I first watched this, I was like, what's going on? And they left. And when he walks up and sees us, like, this is him right here? What?
Yeah. What do you feel about them not showing the death? Because a lot of people struggle with that when I tell them, like, hey, you should watch it. They're like, we don't even see the main character die. I'm like,
this is like,
it's kind of the theme of the movie.
Yeah, like when you go into it, it's like Moss isn't the main character.
Yeah, it's Belle.
I can see, like, as you say, Belle, but in my head, it's Anton.
Yeah.
Because we finish off with Belle, but you're like, it is Belle, but I guess you would say if you look at like main character, Belle, Anton, he's not the main character in this.
Yeah. He's the person we're rooting for.
Yeah, it's your person you want, and Anton didn't even have to do anything.
Yeah.
He just got, kind of like lucky.
Yeah.
That they followed through with their thing. And I don't, like, in my head, it's like, did he let his guard down? Or was it, I mean, there's only so many people you could take. Because if he did let his guard down, there was like 2 people dead. Like 2 of the cartel people were shot.
Yeah. So he was able to still get it.
Because they ran away.
He had his gun on him.
Yeah, he obviously did enough where they ran away because
they didn't get the money.
Yeah, they were like, oh crap, he's armed, let's leave. He just got unlucky.
Yeah, it just became too big of a shootout.
Yeah,
like we gotta
too
get
many
out of
people.
Here.
He was probably anticipating one person still, and he forgot about them looking for him because that moment of like when they got killed in the hotel room earlier, the other people by Anton, he probably was he just solely focused on Anton.
Yeah,
he had tunnel vision,
and I think it's just like he just wanted to have a good time because he's had no good time at all, and then instead he should have been sitting there at the motel. Getting a motel room, getting another motel room, doing all the same thing.
He got too comfortable but also
the motel vent had it where he couldn't do his little trick because it had a little hole. It was just like a small hole. I don't know. I know the first time I watched it, I was like, whoa, he's just dead. But like every time I've watched it more, I'm like, just totally
if you watch it the first time, you're going to be upset. But after years of mulling it over, because I still remember this movie very well after watching it so long ago, because it's just such a good movie. And then watching it again, it's like, I know it's coming. I just feel like it speaks to, I don't know, in my head, it's like just like Llewellyn walks up onto a scene and stumbles upon something.
Yeah.
You don't see it. You stumble upon that. You walk up to the aftermath, and that's what happens. Because there was no, like, it makes the natural conclusion, it makes sense. Because obviously they're not done. They're still going to keep trying to get their money.
Yeah, they still got to try to find this money.
And they found their way. Like, there's other players in this game. They just got what they needed.
We're just following these 3 people.
And it makes sense. It doesn't make this weird, like, the cartels there along with Anton, they're all fighting each other type of thing.
Yeah, that'd be bad.
Yeah. And
that'd be like what
this
every
is
other
the
director
realistic
does.
take of what it does. And it works. I appreciate it. Still can enjoy the whole movie.
Yeah. And then we cut to later that night, and Carla Jean shows up and breaks down in the sheriff's arm.
Yep.
Sad. Fucking sucks. And plus we know that now she will die.
Yeah.
Belle meets the local sheriff and talks about how bad everything is now. Local sheriff talks about Mexico and how Anton is comfortable in going back to his own crime scenes. This gives Belle an idea. And it's also just kind of like laying more into, like, dude, like, we're just not cut out for this anymore. That night, Bell returns to the crime scene, finds the lock blown out in his suspect's familiar style. We see, so this is going to be something for this that we'll have to talk about. So we see Chigurh. He's hiding behind the door of the motel room, observing the shifting light through an empty lock hole. His gun is drawn. Bell enters Moss's room and notices that the vent cover has been removed. The dime in the vent is empty. Mm-hmm. So, like, you know, I've seen this a few times. This is the first time I noticed like the face in the lock hole, because it's shiny. You can see like, you know, each other's like faces in it, which is the first time I noticed it. But I don't think Chigurh is actually there then.
What do you mean? Like,
I think this is the first time the movie kind of goes into not like almost like dream like or like more. I think Bell is thinking, what if he's behind that door right now and I'm about to kick it open? Because when he kicks the door open, nobody's behind that door. Yeah. You can see it. So I think that we got to look inside Bell's mind for a second. He goes in, he observes everything, he sees the vent, and he just kind of sits down. He's like, fuck, I'm too late.
I'm just like before.
And that's when he notices, he's like, I got to retire. I can't do this. Well, I'm not cut out for this anymore.
Well, like the whole, like when you talk about Bell, you can see the thing about when times change, it's different mindset. Simpler time, because you have to think like all these killings that happen. If you see when he talks about it, he says like, who kind of man does it? It's like, I don't know. And they don't like to think about it because they're like, this isn't my world. This is not what I think. There's like,
I'm just supposed to be a small town Texas sheriff.
Like when you talk to people who like don't watch horror movies, like you said, you're desensitized. They're like that. He's just like, I can't because when you start to sit there and try and think about that, you mull it and you analyze it and you start to understand it and you don't want to because it's not a part of like, it destroys your worldview. And you see that through the film as he discusses this stuff.
Yeah. And they do. I didn't put it in my notes for some reason, but you have the scene with, what's his name? The little deputy that he has. And he's reading the paper and he talks about the two older couple that was getting tortured and they like run out into the front of the lawn with the dog collar on. And it's just like, that was another point where it's kind of what you're saying there. It's like, fuck, dude.
I can't do this. He's like, I don't like to sit here and think on this.
Yeah. And then the guy laughs and he's like, sometimes I'll laugh about it too. That's all you can do. So yeah, Moss had hidden the money and Chigurh has retrieved it. And then we cut to Bell, who visits his uncle Ellis, an ex-lawman. Bell explains that he's going to retire because he feels overmatched. But Ellis points out that the region has always been violent. Ellis says, like, thinking it is all waiting on you. That's vanity. Because he's like, Carla Jean. Oh, shit. There's so much more in that. And I didn't put enough in my notes.
About the scene with them two?
Yeah. Because he's also talking, because I think there's like a little bit about like, because Bell served a little bit and like he like abandoned like his troop like in World War II or whatever. It might be in the book. I may be kind of misremembering the two things.
I know that like when he's talking to, you said it was his uncle, right?
Yeah.
He's talking about how I missed a big portion of that scene where his monologue, where he was talking about dude came out on the porch, got shot, and he died right there, and she knew it was coming type of thing.
Yeah.
You know what's coming. I wish I had time to go back and
well, because they're talking about Uncle Ellis's uncle, so it's like an even older man, and he just like, oh yeah, because they had like the Indians out of his house, and like I guess he took something from him, and they just shot him dead there. And so it's like that, and then by the time the wife came out, they were all gone, and it's like, it's always happened.
Yeah, we've
all been killing each other for something.
Yes, it's there. You have like that. You try and think of like he's not cut out for it anymore because he's like, you don't have that worldview that you should have.
Yeah,
you just don't want it.
Yeah, exactly. So then we cut to Carla Jean. She's returning home from her mother's funeral. His mother was suffering from the cancer. To find Chigurh waiting in the bedroom. Love it because she realizes like something's off because she's looking at the window that's open. And she's like, that wasn't open. And then immediately goes in the door and he's sitting there. When she tells him she does not have the money, he recalls the pledge that he made to her husband that could have spared her.
So he chose that more than you.
It's like, oh, I'm doing this because of your husband. It's like, he wouldn't want you to do this.
Yeah, he's sticking the knife in. It's like, it's his fault. You're dying because of him.
Yeah. And then she says, you don't have to do this. It's like, you all say the same thing.
It's always that. It's his coming down to, like, basically he could have done this. But she's like, there's more to it than that. It's like, no, when it comes down to it, it's this.
Yeah. And then he says, the best he will offer Carla is a coin toss for a life, but she says that the choice is still his. Then we cut to the front of the house. Chigurh leaves, and we're like, did he do it? Did he not do it? Then he checks his boots. Damn. And then he drives away, and then as he's driving, it's like a nice, quiet little neighborhood. You see some kids, and then the next jump scare, he gets hit by the car. And I love every movie would have had it where you're pointing the camera on his side. You would have seen him get hit from that angle. But it's like such a scary movie jump scare that it happens from the other side.
You don't anticipate it because you're just like, because at this moment, you're like, near the end of the movie, it's probably going to cut away or something. Then bam.
Yep. Got him. And he is injured in the car accident, abandons the damaged vehicle. He has 2 teenage boys for the shirts and offers them money. The boy who didn't receive his shirt says half of it is theirs. He's like, you still got your shirt.
And he was still like, I don't want no money. I'm just helping out, showing like child innocence of like how before he's like, I just want to help.
But as soon as they get the money, they're fighting over the money.
Yep. And he's like, you never saw me, because it calls back to like what I think Belle said. He's like, or someone else, he's like a ghost.
Yeah.
He always wants to be a ghost.
Yeah. And he just like walks away. Nobody's going to pay attention to him because they're responding to a car accident. So he's kind of in the middle of nowhere though. So it's like, is he gonna be able to? I guess he does, because he gives back the money and everything. So now retired, Bell shares 2 dreams with his wife, both involving his deceased father. In the first dream, he lost some money that his father had given him. And I think that's all just a dream about what's been going on with the money. And in the second, he and his father were riding horses through a snowy mountain pass. His father, who was carrying fire and a horn, quietly passed by with his head down. He was going on ahead and fixing to make fire. In the surrounding dark and cold, Bell knew that when he got there, his father would be waiting. And then I woke up. Tick, tick, tick. Oh, dude, I got chills just thinking about it.
Man, like the way that ends it, and just like, because that's another way people probably complain, because you think after Moss dies, and the choices at the end could also really affect it. But if you go back and watch it, and just Tommy Lee's face and expressions, talking about,
he fucking destroys it. Like
he's
so
like
good.
It's such like that scene can make you feel empty, because you're like,
thing
whoa.
is, because like to me, like all that's saying is that he's coping with the fact that his life is ending.
Yeah,
essentially, he can't do this anymore. Feels in the dark. When he dies, his father's going to be there with the horn. Because before he talks about like with the Ellis, he's like, I expected at some point God to come into my life, but he didn't. I think this is him kind of contemplating. It's like, well, maybe this will be my afterlife. I get to be there in the dark with my father.
Maybe he's trying to think of like what's after, because like he's starting to see like, maybe he's like, maybe I didn't retire soon enough. Maybe the dark like part of the world got to me.
Yeah.
And
I don't know. This scene actually, it kind of makes me emotional. Like
I
get a little sniffly.
That scene got me, but I don't.
It's because especially, it's like, I had a father pass away, so it just kind of hits, and then you got Tommy Lee Jones's like
it's just such a little scene.
The way his eye like he's so uncomfortable.
You can see he's upset, and like it's such a good scene, because I was like, whatever I was doing, I turned back, kind of watch it. I was like, God, I'm like,
it felt like an old man telling a story. And
you could feel like his hurt in that dream and everything.
Yeah. And then it's the ticking of the clock. So it just keeps going, baby. Just keeps going. No matter who you are, clock's ticking. That's No Country for Old Men. Let's get into the categories.
Hell yeah.
So the first category, the good, the bad, the ugly, the fine. It's where we discuss the good of the film, the good, the bad of the film, the bad, the ugly, something that didn't age well, the fine, something that did age well. I'm just going to let you know, I got nothing in bad.
I don't either.
So we'll start with the good. We're skipping the bad probably.
Yeah.
So what do you got for the good?
Just in general, Javier Bardem. The whole, like, every actor nails their spot, even side characters due to the gas station. They do such a good job. Like, what I cannot think, I would be interested to see what other people's complaints are. If it's just their personal choice of like they didn't like certain things with the story or something. But I'm like, what is your complaint? What faults does this movie have? What's an error you see? What's this and that? Where's it at?
I just think it's just kind of how the movie like just ends. You know,
Yeah, but
not
that's
seeing the killer, and then it's just like that's just some fucking monologue with this guy. And
yeah,
then
but
that's
that
it.
to me, like if you're like that, then
But that's like standard. That's like general audiences types of.
yeah, that
ideas.
general audiences probably wouldn't like it. I'm like, but if you look past it though, what else is the problem? Like,
I don't think there is any problem with it. I
Exactly.
mean, people can find it because I was, just kind of went on Reddit to see like some maybe people that might have had a problem with it. It's like it is a very slow movie.
it
And
doesn't.
if you're not into like watching these people, seeing what they're doing, and like how fun that is, then maybe it's something you're just like, can we just get to some shooting?
Yeah, if you're that person, but I'm like, if you're going into this movie thinking of something else, it's like that whole thing with people like Joker 2, like, I didn't know it was a musical. I'm like, how do you not know about movie? Like, it's just one of those people it's one of those I can't understand because even like not watching like trailers, a lot of trailers, even I knew that was like the big thing before they started production.
I will say like, because that was kind of like with the Mean Girls movie that came out,
Mhm.
they hid that movie as a musical.
Oh, I knew it was going to be one.
So hard. Like they tried their best not to let out that, hey, this is a musical, because I don't know why most people like musicals. I guess no one just wanted a Mean
We
Girls
tried
musical.
to watch it. LaShawn wanted to watch it, and
No good.
yeah, she didn't. She said, I can't. I was like, you don't want to go back to it? Like, no.
Well, for me, I put obviously the performances, but I was going to say the Coen Brothers, but I'm going to leave them a little later. The cinematography.
Yes.
Roger Deakins, baby, the best to ever do it.
It's
essentially.
so good because it all feels so real.
That's
in
something,
somewhere.
that's something you could do. You could just like, when you're trying to look for a movie, just like, well, let me just go to like Roger Deakins, see what he shot. Because most of those movies are really good.
I always want to do that and I forget. So I'm going to put his name down.
Skyfall was him, I believe.
I need to go back and watch that.
Because that movie is
I'm going to put it down in my notes I took for this movie. So
the
that way I go
best
back.
looking movie.
How do you spell his last name?
Deakins. D-E. I'm not going to spell it on the podcast. But yeah, I just think this movie is beautifully shot. It's great. But it's Roger Deakins, so he does everything. Right.
It's really good because like it's one of these movies I'm like, where do you find a fault? Where's it at?
Yeah.
And like you can do that for certain things. Like I didn't like it, but I just like
I can see this movie not being someone's cup of tea, but
I guess I could say that.
to
but
say
I'm like,
it's a bad movie, that just
if
makes me
someone
want to
would
slap
say
you.
that this isn't my cup of tea, I would counteract like, oh, do you watch serial killer documentaries? Oh, I love them. You're watching like psychopathic, like
Yeah, but they just got to hear that constant noise. This movie's quiet.
that's what's so good. It adds attention because you're in it. You're just like,
Not anymore. Nobody can pay attention to anything. Only 5 seconds to a minute clips.
we were almost good when we banned it.
So, all right. So we're skipping the bad because we both have nothing.
Yeah.
What do you got for the ugly? Something that didn't age well.
Um,
I'll just tell you mine. Just what you think. It's the CGI pronghorn and the CGI like raven or crow. Whatever it was.
I guess that would be it. But
I think the bird looked worse because he has such a close up.
I feel like they just like it's cheaper and quicker just to do these quick scenes, and it's something I don't nitpick crazy on that. Just because I was like, I understand it's just for a setup for the scene. It's
so
not important.
small. It's
Yeah,
so small.
it's insignificant to the rest of the movie.
Yeah. I just have to put it because it's the only thing I got.
Yeah, because I was like, as you said, the ugly, and I'm like, I don't. This is like a movie that like you can watch.
Greed is ugly. Money is ugly.
People.
Yeah. Drugs are bad. Okay.
I can't pick this movie apart. It would have to be something like. Sometimes I do that. I'm like, oh, what would be something like? I'll go and look and see what some people complain about. Like some people were complaining about Super Mario Brothers movie. Their complaints were like, I can't even remember. It was so dumb. I was like, this is such a like, no, the story's not serious. It's no drama. I'm like, it's a Mario Brothers movie. What were you thinking going in this deep?
It's a children's movie, guys.
I don't like. They were complaining about stuff like I said. Your arguments is null and void to one thing: child's movie.
Yeah.
And some people don't look past it. Like, well, you could do this and that. I'm like, you don't.
It's not a Pixar movie. It's an Illumination movie. They made Despicable Me.
Like,
let's calm down, guys.
Watch it for fun. Like, I don't understand why you have to like. Some people try and nitpick everything. And when I watched it, I was like, I don't understand how you have a negative thing on certain movies that don't make sense. It's like you went into a different mindset that doesn't work.
Yeah, like I mean, with a Mario movie, it's like I think it's fine, but like I'm not gonna be like they shouldn't have done this. Oh, how could he jump on that mushroom? This isn't video game enough.
They're just not doing anything with the story, really pushing it. I'm like,
though I still don't understand why we always have to have them like in the real world and then go into mushroom. Just like start them in the mushroom.
I don't know why. They did the same thing with Sonic where he's like dealing with people, and I'm like, we don't need this. It's the same thing with like Transformers.
Why would you nitpick Mario? We both just yeah, actually you're right. Mario,
well, no, it's not fucking that. I can see it, but I'm like, it doesn't. I was like, I'm not gonna be upset by it.
No, it's just one of those things where I'm like, let's just put them in the damn Mushroom Kingdom. Like why? Because they did it with their live action one too. I'm like, I don't care how they get there. Just put them there.
Well, I know why they do it because they're like, general audience is like, well, why are they here? Do we need this and that? I'm like, we don't need it, but they do it for the other people who are like, I have to have this.
So imagine playing that NES game. I don't understand the story of this. Like, the princess is in another castle. That's the story. All right, so the find. Something that aged well for you. Me, it's the Coen Brothers, man.
Coen Brothers, Josh Brolin, whatever. Javier Bardem, still great actors. Like, anytime Josh Brolin is in anything, it's one of those ones he's in it. It's like, this is gonna be a movie I want to watch just because of him. It could pull like there's certain actors you watch like I'm gonna watch this because of them.
Yeah. It's just kind of a perfect movie.
And I guess my ugly would be like give Javier Bardem more movies.
Yeah, just like especially him playing like an intimidating person. That would be great. But they really, I mean, he did Skyfall after this. That's a really good one.
I feel like they didn't really good as him. He is. I just feel like it wasn't used enough properly. Like,
well, because he kind of comes in like halfway through the movie where he finally meets him, and they have like that great like James Bond the villain explains everything.
Well, I guess I kind of want it more like in Casino Royale where you got more of Mads in it. I wanted more exposure like that.
Yeah, it was definitely more focused on Bond in that one. All right, man. We got one more category. It's the double feature. You want me to go first? You want to go first? So I decided to pick. I feel like it's a movie that's inspired by No Country for Old Men. Almost. It's called Hell or High Water. It's got Jeff Bridges in it, Chris Pine, Ben Foster. Ben Foster will make you really nervous in it, and Jeff Bridges gives his classic rah 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 performance. And for anybody out there who's never heard of it and is wondering like, is there anybody else I would know from it? It's the writer Taylor Sheridan who does all those Yellowstone stuff. But he wrote some really good movies. Wind River, Hell or High Water, Sicario.
I think
3 bangers.
Wind
River's not as good.
Grown at Yellowstone, but Yellowstone just suffers from like someone pointed out, it's like it would have been good for 1 to 2 seasons, but then they milked it out for the same story for too long.
And then now we have 2 prequel series. Yeah. All right, bro, what do you got?
Sicario.
Hell yeah. So 2 Taylor Sheridan. He really is in that bag, though.
I didn't know it was him, but I enjoyed that movie just because you kind of have you have Benicio del Toro's character, who's kind of like another version of Anton.
Josh Brolin's in it.
Yeah, and Josh Brolin doing his stuff, being a great actor, and being that like, I don't know how to describe it. Just someone who seems like he knows his stuff and is confident in life. Like someone who's been through it type of thing. And not his first rodeo type of thing. Yeah. And then just Benicio del Toro and his story and his mission that he does towards the end is similar to Anton, and like his whole nonchalance for certain things. Yeah. It works so well.
And also it's a movie like you see the process of what everybody's doing. Like the scene where they're going like through the tunnel and stuff, the shootout at the border, the beginning in Arizona when like the giant bomb explodes. Yep. And then Daniel Kaluuya, he gives like another great sleepy performance.
And then like the one scene in Sicario where she comes up and says, "Put the gun down." He immediately shoots her and says, "Don't point your gun at me ever again." Yeah. And just tosses her gun back.
Man, and the John Bernthal scene. Bro,
that was really good too. I was like, oh, I didn't know he's in this. And I was like, oh, this is so good.
Sicario's so good.
That's why I was like, this, because when you said we got a double feature, I was like, I can't think of anything. I was like, oh no, I got the perfect thing that goes with this.
Man, the next weekend off, maybe we should just do it.
Dude, I love Sicario.
I'll think about it. I'll see what the weekend's going to end up being. All right, that's No Country for Old Men, baby. Got 2 great recommendations. Damn, that'd be a hell of a triple feature. I would say probably start with No Country for Old Men, and then just because if you start getting tired watching movies, the other ones are kind of a little more action. Yeah. So start with No Country for Old Men, and then the other ones,
Sicario in between, and then do Hell or High Water.
Yeah,
maybe?
Hell or High Water is more of a popcorn type of movie. Yeah. That movie's so good too. But yeah, thanks for joining us. Hey, me and Jason here, cutting in the middle of this episode because he wasn't here during it.
I wasn't. I was dying of illness.
Didn't know what movie we were going to do yet because I didn't talk to Jason. So we're interrupting this episode to tell you what we're doing. Children of Men.
Yay.
We just finished wrapping it. Great episode. A lot of great conversation. So yeah, you have to join us for it.
Feel like steamy wet babies.
Yeah. And if you just like maybe one of the best movies over the past 50 years, then you gotta check it out and find out what the movie is about. And are there any religious like metaphors in this?
I don't know.
Well, does it feel like it's happening?
Tell me.
Does it feel like it's happening now? We don't know. But join us and we'll discuss it. So join us next week for that.
No worries.
Bye. So yeah, make sure you come back to see it, that movie, or listen to us discuss that movie next week. And if you want to leave us any fan mail, just go into our description at the top. There's a link you can click and you can just text us from your phone what you want to talk about with us or movie recommendation.
Tell us why you
Anything.
think this movie isn't good.
Yeah. And then I'll find you. And then at the bottom of the description, we also have our email. If you just want to email us at werecommendmailbag@gmail.com. I would like, also leave us some reviews. Tell us how you think Dakota does as a guest on here.
And the reason why, I don't know if Jesse mentioned it, but Jason's sick. That's the only reason. It was supposed to be all three of us. But...
This one he couldn't do because
that's right.
He had a doctor's appointment with the wife. And we've tried to do No Country for Old Men. This is our third time trying to do it. It's almost because we did it once, didn't record. Then we were trying to do it that one weekend, but it snowed. And I was like, there's no reason for anybody to get out. And now we did it. Men in Black was the exact same way. So it's 2 straight movies we've struggled with so much. Tommy Lee Jones has cursed us. But yeah, Jason couldn't join us, but he'll be back next week, hopefully. But yeah, I want to thank Joey Prosser for our intro and outro music. You can find him on X at Mr. Joey Prosser. And yeah, I guess that's it. This has been the We Recommend Podcast. I'm Jesse.
I'm Dakota.
If the one role you followed led you to this podcast, what was the point of the podcast? I don't know. Bye.
Bye.